Board of Fire Commissioners. We're at 848 here at Airport Road, Destin, Florida. The date is February 24th, 2021, and the time is 9 a.m. This meeting is open to the public, and at this time I'd like to open the floor up for any public comment. Seeing none, the floor is closed to public comment. Today we've invited some gentlemen from Sprung Structures to do a presentation on their style fire stations, I guess you can call it. And this time I'd like to just open the floor for you.
Sure, thank you. I appreciate the time. And my name is Chris Rohde. This is David Fondacaro. We're both Air Force veterans in the local area. We started a company, Rogue Industries, about 4 years ago, and it was really based on serving those who serve. And really the benefit of our company is the fact that we've been in service members' shoes before, so we understand really some of the constraints and some of the challenges and pressures you have to provide public service. And specifically, we focused the majority of our company after Hurricane Michael at Tyndall Air Force Base. We were actually up in Atlanta doing some other projects, and we said, hey, look, we're local guys, we got to come down and help. So we got to Tyndall, we asked how we could help, and really started off with one Sprung structure. The story is pretty amazing, where they had to reconstitute that base and that mission, accepting the F-35 and the MQ-9, and it's a national treasure having that base asset there at Tyndall in Panama City. And we started with one travel management office that David Fondacaro led, and it led to about 20 different facilities and working hand in hand with Sprung Structures and Phil Sprung. And can I stand up? And
sure.
So what we've done here today, and just to understand, so we are an alliance partner with Sprung Structures, and we've worked our way to the point where globally we really represent the majority of the military sales and erection and then turnover a lot of the Sprung Structures. What I have here, a lot of times with Sprung, we got this in Panama City and at Southport when we first started to present after some of our projects at Tyndall Air Force Base. From the outside, it almost looks like a tent. And these are extremely resilient structures. These structures are built to last. The fabric membrane on the outside and even on the inside is a DuPont fabric that is based off of Kevlar. It's called Tedlar. The reason Sprung, I believe, is a really, really good solution for this area, specifically after Hurricane Michael, is that we can meet all of Miami-Dade County codes. So we have structures over there right now. We're building a military canine training facility, and it's roughly 100 by 190 structure as well as a 30 by 60 structure. And from my humble opinion, there was no other structure in canopy form that could meet the 165 mile per hour wind code. So the wind code here can go up to almost 178 miles per hour. And as you see with this cross section, it's more than just a tent. And that's really what we said when we built Southport and Highland Park, is we had an irregular shaped kind of challenging building area like you have here in Destin, where brick and mortar, and I am a general contractor as well. I have been since 2008 in the state of Florida. I worked a tremendous amount of military projects. My business partner has done the same. He ran construction contracting at Hurlburt Field. So we understand the extreme measures it takes to do rapid contracting. With that in mind, you can look at metal buildings, you can look at other similar structures, but for the majority of what we found at Tyndall Air Force Base, when you needed to reconstitute a mission pretty rapidly with structures that could withstand a hurricane if perchance something or high winds came through the area, Sprung is the right way to go, and from our humble opinion, in some instances, the only way to go. We built structures from drone maintenance facilities to travel management offices to, not out of a Sprung, but we just built a sheriff substation in Panama City with the sheriff. We also went as far as Alaska, and we built 10 structures for Stryker, warning vehicles, combat-ready training facilities. Sprung, I think itself lends itself to certain areas within, I would say, rebuild for public servants, and fire stations seems to be one of them. We completed the process in the build in under 120 days at Southport and Highland Park. And I'll be honest with you, we even completed that during COVID and some of the early restrictions, because we started construction in February of last year. And we also had a fire at Highland Park. There was, let's just say, a laboratory next to it in a rough area. You probably saw that. Yes. So the backside of the structure, okay. So the backside, I get a call on, it was like March the 14th of last year. Everything's going well in the construction schedule. We're excited to turn Highland Park over first. And literally the backside of the structure was burning. It was somewhat of a blessing because it showed how when the structure caught fire, it burns itself out. Okay, and you really want that for a fire station. These are functional, they're flexible, they're resilient. The inside of the structure itself, you can really do whatever you want with it, from insulation to HVAC to mechanical, electrical, plumbing, lighting, data. You can even have rapid build out in the inside too. What we did at Southport and Highland Park, and I believe we brought some of the examples and you guys have seen that as well, is we took the living quarters and put it outside of the fire station itself. And the reason we did that is we really wanted to separate it. There's some exhaust issues at times too. We'd have to have an independent firewall inside the structure as well. So we are pretty well versed in what I would say modular, substantial commercial structures. If you saw the 2 structures that we put at Highland Park, we use those similar structures for the sheriff's office. They like them so much. When you literally walk into a modular building, it really feels like it's permanent. The other benefit, I think, with a sprung structure specifically, potentially for your project, is the fact that it's relocatable. So you've got a challenging site where you have an entrance that is pretty extreme when you go in with a fire truck, but you have a long site itself as well. You have 2 existing buildings, but you really can just place a sprung in there. It serves a purpose pretty rapidly for public need. And then if you have to, you can disassemble and relocate the structure for whatever need you have for the city itself. It can be a storage facility, it can be an administrative office building. We just completed for Hamilton County in Tennessee, 30 by 120 foot rapid COVID vaccination center. Actually, again, we were on the news and we had a great working relationship with the county. From a meeting like this to turn over the structure itself was 27 days, to include all the building as well.
Wow.
Yes, it was 27 days. We put the structure up in 4.5 days. And if we have the building envelope and we have the building hours to do it, meaning almost 24/7, these can go up pretty rapidly. As a company, not Rogue itself, but as Sprung, they're currently working with the Army Corps of Engineers and building a rapid COVID hospital. When COVID first started in February, we again did a shift in focus as a company like we did when the hurricane happened at Tyndall, and we said, what can we do to help? We talked to FEMA, we talked to the VA, we threw out some plans, and I think at that point in time, and I don't want to get off topic, but not a lot of people knew it would be this enduring of a pandemic. So we're seeing a lot of interest where we can package a 30 by 60 sprung in a 20-foot container, tag it with an RFID, ship it anywhere in the world, and that's an asset. That's a physical asset for the city, county, municipality to put back if there, let's say, is another pandemic or wave of a pandemic. If there happens to be flooding, hurricane, tornado, or the like, is they have an asset, and literally we're not caught saying, what can we do? This is not a tent. It matches all the building codes that you have to match locally. What I always say is it's a third of the build time. I'd say it's even less than a third of the build time. The cost component is always something that people want to talk about, and we've brought some blueprints as well too. The way I like to think about this is that you're going to save a tremendous amount of money on the building envelope itself. Anywhere from, if you compare it to a steel structure or brick and mortar, if you want to call it that, or sticks, and rebar, you're going to save on the building envelope. The interior of the structure, you're going to save on the building time, the waste, and really the turnaround time. So that's where you cut a third of your construction cost. Depending upon what you put in the structure itself and how creative you get, you can have an interior of a structure look exactly like the room we're sitting in today. So there can be commercial drop ceilings, sprinklers, and the lighting systems that you have, the PA, audio, visual, and all of that. What really sold us on this concept, because we pride ourselves on doing an exhaustive audit of what's out there in the Silicon Valley-esque environment, right? And how can we get that environment into the people that don't have access as much to that environment? Meaning, soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marine, firefighters, police officers, and we've really got into, we just briefed a local pastor in Panama City too, is fundamentally why do, I would say, technologies and advanced technologies not translate into the public sector as rapidly? And they don't. Why do my children, we talked about them earlier, I have 4, have more technology in the palm of their hands than the firefighters, police officers, and warfighters that are protecting our nation? So Rogue's mission is to change that. We understand you have a job to do, you have meetings to host, you have a day-to-day grind, and you can't get out there. We do it. We fly to Austin, we fly to Dayton, we fly to Boston, we fly to Silicon Valley, and we interface with a lot of different people on a lot of different technologies, from communication to infrastructure and building as well. With that, when we found Sprung, we said this is something, if you talk to anyone who serves and any commander who serves, their biggest headache for the most part is structures on base. It's facility management. It's a life cycle cost of 40 and 50-year-old structures at Eglin Air Force Base. It's getting people, plumbing and water in some of these structures, or the roof's leaking. And David and myself, and I know I'm taking the entire floor, if you want to talk, you can, but David and myself said that's just not right. And there were so many meetings we were in where, okay, we've got 776 facilities at Eglin that we have to maintain, manage, and there's a lot of people that are employed by that base. It's another national treasure, but only 45 make the cut line. Why is that right? Well, the cut line's based on traditional construction. And we said to ourselves, what we do today, a building we build today, traditionally, the way we build it, is it prepared to last 50 years? No, it's not. Look at Wi-Fi, look at broadband, look at some of the requirements we have today. So we really focused on functional, resilient, rapid, and relocatable. And that's why we think it's not the end all be all, but I do think for a lot of applications, specifically potentially for what you guys have here in Destin, it makes a tremendous amount of sense. It really does. So we've done, I believe, upwards of 35 to 42 structures, depending upon how you count them, over the past 24 months, anywhere from, Alaska to where we have conversations ongoing right now in Miami for a hospital system. We're passionate, as you can see. We really believe in the Sprung system itself. We're very confident in our ability to turn it around and turn it around pretty rapidly. And I think, the last point in this too is, I always say, don't try to reinvent the wheel. Some of the folks that are the leading tech thinkers in the nation really are moving to Sprung. Jeff Bezos just did a headquarters facility for Blue Origin out of a Sprung structure. It's the largest one, I believe, that the company's done in the past 5 years for a headquarters building in Washington. When Elon was running into manufacturing and production problems with Tesla, he literally utilized Sprung, and now he's utilizing Sprung for all his space endeavors too, for manufacturing and administrative office buildings. So when I see individuals with unlimited capital, for the most part, say this just makes sense from a building perspective, for us that helps the value proposition too. Why shouldn't we do it for the local municipalities? We're here to answer any questions. Like I said, we're a service-able veteran and a small business. We also are a minority-owned firm, an 8A firm. We've been in business going on 4 years now. We have some pretty large contracts at Tyndall Air Force Base with some really good past performance.
Or 40?
We've done 40 Sprungs.
No, I mean, how many years you been in business?
Four.
Four.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 4. I'm retired Air Force. I retired in June.
Well, thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. And thank you. And yeah, I've worked 5 years for Advanced Programs at Lockheed Martin. We've been in the defense industry for quite some time. And David is still a reservist. You can give your background if you want to too.
Yeah, my background, I was at Hurlburt Field before I separated from the Air Force, and I lived here locally in Destin. I was a unlimited warranty contracting officer, so I ran the construction budget over there for Air Force Special Operations Command, and also deployed to Afghanistan in 2012 with SOCOM. Did a lot of contract work for them as well as their lead procurement agent in the field. So coming up with rapid, clever solutions, that are on cost, but ultimately serve the warfighter and meet the mission is something that we specialize in. We get excited about it. We like to solve hard problems. So I'm still a reservist. I'm a major in the Air Force now, serving up in Washington, D.C. Once a month out of the year. So I still participate in the military now, but I'm here locally, and we're ready to answer any question. I think we covered just about every detail. I'm glad you mentioned the Elon Musk thing, because that is what really popped up on our radar. It's the Model 3 manufacturing line is entirely a Sprung solution. And while they were erecting that structure, he was simultaneously building the assembly line underneath it. And you can Google it. There's a 60 Minutes article about exactly how they pulled it off. So it goes up rapid, but it's also flexible to where you can build an assembly line. Where finally, when the Sprung structure was complete, the next day the first Model 3 rolled off. He was able to meet his production schedule for Tesla. And that company is doing pretty well last time I checked. So
let's point, this is the COVID testing site. I think what I'm going to do is, David lives in the local area. I'm going to drive back tonight. Okay. Do you want to come back and pick these up after the meeting? Yeah. So these are the plans for the COVID testing site, just to understand. We put up roughly 4,000 square feet of commercial space in a pretty challenging environment down in a national park or a state park in 4.5 days.
What's the smallest that y'all can produce?
So.
the sprung?
Yeah, that's a great question. We don't like to go any smaller than 30 feet wide, but we can go 20 feet wide. Really, if you think about it from a Florida challenge perspective, because of the wind code, is you literally have the flat end areas you see in some of these. Do you mind if I grab this?
No, please do.
Yeah, where's the camera's this way? Yeah, so the flat end area here is what we traditionally call our width. And then each one of these is bays. So in the wind code in Florida, traditionally, we have to go 12-foot bays. Sometimes you can get away with 15-foot, meaning each one of the aluminum beams that come down or the arches have to be 12 feet apart. And then there's purlings on the inside that actually connect the aluminum base itself. And this is literally an erector set as it goes up. As you assemble each arch on the ground, and you can, that's walking through those plans. It logically, my 16 and 14-year-old, they can look at it and say, this makes sense, Dad. You stand them up, and then the purlings, which are really the cross braces, and then we have man array earth anchors a lot of times in base plates to voltage to whatever surface you have. So you can actually put it on a surface that isn't asphalt or concrete. It can be the ground itself, because the earth anchors drive up to 9, 10, sometimes 12 feet into the ground to actually get the tension you need for the wind code compliance. And so the width, that was your initial question. I think 30 feet, we can go down to 20 if need be. We've done that in the Virgin Islands and areas like that before.
Do y'all actually do the concrete too?
We can, yes,
Or
absolutely.
do you sub that out?
It depends. Roads and Bridges did it in Bay County.
Okay.
Sometimes the challenge is the handoff between roads and bridges, but we can do the concrete, we can do the asphalt. We are doing it currently for the K-9 military training dog facility at Tyndall Air Force Base. We're doing footers and then turf, K-9 turf. They actually have it, right? So it doesn't hurt their feet, and we go to the bathroom on it, and it can drain.
There's a couple of things. We went and checked, the chief and I went and checked them out
Good.
yesterday over in Panama City. And that was one of the main complaints they had, not about the structure.
Yep.
Was the concrete,
We can do it.
no drains.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yes, I'm not blaming them, but
No,
roads and bridges did the we normally do.
But I didn't know if that
that.
was, if y'all planned all that or it was done.
They wanted, because of the speed and I would say the contracting mechanism internally to get us to construction, roads and bridges poured both Atlanta, Highland Park and Southport.
And the other question I wanted to, we had was how it stepped down to the anchors from the concrete. Why is that? Instead of right on top.
That was an afterthought too. It was the handoff between the concrete pad itself. And what we normally do is walk through a design charrette, and however you want the foundation plan done, we can do that.
Okay, yeah. Anybody else? I'm sure everybody's got some type of questions.
I got a couple questions.
Sure.
The testing on this,
Sure.
that you've tested, the vinyl, what wind-driven spur rating does it have for the vinyl itself?
Yeah, actually, it passes, so the DuPont Tedlar fabric passes the puncture test rating for a 2x4 in Miami-Dade.
At what wind?
I think that was, I can get you, and I don't want to go on record, how about I say this? I will give you the wind testing data directly from that test.
Okay.
So you have it.
That's important.
Yep.
The wind load testing on it, what has it been tested to?
It can pass, we built in Tyndall up to 177 mile per hour wind code. We currently are at 165 for the K-9 facility.
Okay, so if we want to, for instance, we want to do hose racks or,
Yes.
whatever, can we attach without any major engineering interference onto the purlins?
Great point. Thank you for bringing that up. So, and we did bring it up in our presentation. On all the arches, not the purlins itself, but then also on the purlins, is there already some pre-drilled applications and any rating of what I would say is eye hook, hanger, strap, tie down that you can think of. It's a 133-year-old company where you could hook any apparatus, any lighting fixture, any data, and you can run it throughout it. So you absolutely can do those.
Data, utilities, things like that, but I'm
Absolutely.
talking about ladders,
Yes.
hoses,
Yes, you
there's
can.
no weight limit on it?
There will be a weight limit dependent upon how you disperse the weight across each one of the bays and the purlins.
Right.
But some of the hooks that we actually had up in Hamilton County, they're pretty substantial hardware.
Is
I
that
believe
possible
they
to
had
get
a-
that data for us also?
Yeah, we can. We had 400-pound eye hooks up there in some places.
A lot of the stuff, Mike, that we saw, and I took pictures of the things that we pass around and what have you. A lot of, they had self-standing racks that were bolted to the ground.
Right.
Hose reels.
Right.
They had their,
Dryer, ice
yeah, the dryer ice machine, and then they had above their venting system. Also on the top, they had a vent that would pull air from the side up and out.
Yes.
So.
The only reason
Designed pretty well.
Yeah, the only reason I'm questioning is I just want to make sure, you know, being in the construction business, I want to make sure that if we do mount something, it is 4 legs and it is mounted to that purling, that it comes back one day and say, well, it's because of, the building fell because of, you know, I want to know what their engineer says we can do.
We can put you in touch with Peter Boss, all the stamp drawings, I mean, they're very exacting, obviously, because liability, it's a big
Right,
company. it's a
exactly,
global company.
exactly.
So we stand behind it, I mean, it takes a little while to get through the engineering process and make certain that they can stamp it.
The powder coating, what kind of warranty do you have on your powder coating? Because I think if y'all are from here, you know powder coating don't last here.
I know, so there's a maintenance schedule on it too, we warranty the exterior of the structure 20 years. So there's a 20-year warranty on the structure itself and a lifetime guarantee on the T6 aluminum beams.
Yeah, T6 I feel comfortable about.
Yeah.
The powder coating is the issue. So you're gonna warranty that powder coating not to have any failure at all for 20 years?
I believe that's
If
what
that's
the
the
warranty
case,
is.
that's not bad, but.
Yep.
You know, can you follow up on that for us also?
We can, there's a church actually that withstood the hurricane in Panama City, I think is it High Point?
It's the North Star.
No,
Yeah.
sorry.
Panama City was built out of Sprung.
Yeah, I mean, if those couple of questions, if you can give me a couple of those answers there, that's big.
Okay,
But the spur is important to me. You know, what will it take? What will it take?
thank you.
Because we're sitting over there on the west side of town with lots and lots and lots and lots of trees.
I know,
And, you know, I've seen them go through a brick wall.
Yep.
So, you know, a brick, not a
So-
block, but a brick wall.
beyond that too, the patch system, obviously you're concerned about it going through in an event and, you know, ruining or damaging some of the equipment. But as you can tell, this Tedlar, and you've seen the fabric itself, is we have heat adhered patches that we put on it.
Chief, question for you. It might not be a bad idea since we've already got a quote on the 40 by 40 by 14 in the back here for the trailer,
Right.
to ask these gentlemen to
Right.
provide a bid for you. It'll be a 40 by 40.
Yep.
Pretty simple. Mitch, your program, 14-foot tall, because I want to put two roll-up doors in it. 2 12 by 12 roll-up doors.
Got it, yeah, ours would be taller than 14 feet, if that's not a
Yeah,
problem.
they have a little.
So
That's
it's,
fine.
it's gonna
That's
be
fine.
more.
As long as it's gonna have two 12 by 12 roll-up doors in the front and one
So we have
3-0
constraints of trees.
130 service door in the back. It's gonna be simple.
When I went and looked at these buildings, they're pretty tall.
Right.
They got a,
Well, this one, so this is a 30,
But we do want 12-foot doors
if you want to
yeah.
read through, I'm sort of just kind of jumping in here. So this is a 30 and, what's that right?
Right, I got you.
Yeah, so just check, it's gonna grab the next one. But it's gonna be about the same peak height for your 40.
Right.
yeah, that's the issue with height with us is the canopies.
Hey,
The one next one, I believe. I thought, I was sending it to you. I should have been in
here,
here.
you read it on the next page.
1810.
Right. That's your shortest?
This is our,
To get a what size wall? Let's do it the wall like this.
so this is 30 wide.
Right.
And each one of these sections, you see the double section in here, it's 60 long.
Right.
And it's 1810 tall.
Center, 1810.
Yes.
Here we go. Okay, you're gonna be 14 foot in the center, 18 at the tip,
Yep.
and the wall height is going to be
I think it's 8, 6.
11,
If that's
right
better.
around 11-ish,
Okay.
which would work for us, chief.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, if you don't mind getting back with him and
Sure.
getting us a quote on that,
Absolutely.
because we've already quoted a steel building,
Yep.
and it'll
Okay.
give the board something to look at.
Okay. Non-insulated or insulated?
I don't think it needs insulated, but it's up to him.
No, no.
Okay.
We're more concerned about wind and rain.
Okay, yeah.
The sun and rain.
What's the cost of this structure compared to some more conventional construction, say concrete block, rebar, or concrete?
Very competitive. Especially when you get into, larger structures that are insulated. Okay,
When you say larger, where are you at size-wise when you start talking larger?
about the size, so on what are you doing there? You said
We're doing
40
a 40 by 80, roughly, give or take 40 by 80.
A 40 by 80 is going to be extremely competitive and, don't quote me on this, but lower than traditional construction by a decent bit.
You said the building could be taken down, palletized, reused, or is there a market in used structures?
So I've asked Phil Sprung that
Good
too.
question.
It's a family name. I'm not going to say that anyone's going to help you sell a used structure, but the aluminum itself and the fabric itself is decently valuable, and I think there's probably an aftermarket in used structures.
I mean, if you're doing things like building temporary COVID vaccination centers, they're not gonna be doing COVID vaccinations for the next 25
I
years.
know.
So that building's gonna get repurposed somewhere along the line.
Yeah, so
And if there's not a market now, there's gonna be.
that's a good point. I mean, what I believe Hamilton County, not to speak for them, they plan on doing with it is, obviously, they're gonna use it as a storage facility within the park that we put the COVID vaccination testing facility in. So they use heavy equipment and whatnot, to put it in there. And, they already have a plan for it.
Well, we're not part of the city here, so our needs beyond, the substation is really not great. I don't see us with another structure somewhere, don't need more storage.
Got it?
And better not to have it than have it, because we'll end up using it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So I have one other question.
Can
So,
I get one more in? Okay, this thing is built basic by base, being bolted together. If we do, and I understand we can do any width, any length, so if we do a 40-foot building, can we come back in a year and make it an 80-foot?
Absolutely.
We can just tear the back down, add on? Okay,
length, not width though, right?
Length, not width.
Yeah,
That's correct, yeah.
that's why I said make it this way.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we get that question a lot. The church asked the same question because they wanted yesterday in Panama City, they wanted a 5,000 square foot facility to start. Ideally, they want 10,000 square feet, and there is a growth path to that as well.
Right, okay.
Yeah, but that's essentially what we did in Hamilton County.
That
DC.
kind of goes in line
We
with
started with
what
a
we're
30 by
talking
60 and ended with a 30 by 122.
Right.
So they needed the length.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's
sir.
exactly.
Makes a good addition.
The other question I had from what I saw yesterday, I noticed that the garage doors were mounted on the outside.
I know.
On the 3-bay, the middle one was on the inside because of the width.
Yep.
Is that traditional, that they have to go on the outside, or can they be all mounted on the
It
outside?
can be all mounted on the inside as long as there's clearance for that drum.
Okay.
Mhm.
And that was the
And,
biggest issue I
I
saw
know,
for in this area, because we, the salt. could just-
well, then obviously the emergency release and the chain and everything, that was a
Right.
big issue when we were talking about it. Those plans were approved as is. During the design process, there's options, but once you lock in a set of plans, you have to build it to the plans,
Okay.
and that's what we did.
Yeah, that was one of the thoughts, was where's the chain on the outside, and
Well, and
If
if
the
I
power went out,
chain
how
it
could
to
you
the fabric
get
and
it
pull it
down?
down,
Yeah.
we spent a good bit of time on that one too. But the
okay.
drums and the two are on the outside, the ones on the inside, you can mount both on the inside. There are ways.
Once you
to
have
do
enough in the
Yeah.
middle for the drum.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or you can reverse the drums so they're coming in the middle,
Right.
as opposed to being
Right.
on the outside, right?
Right.
Yeah. I think when I
So-
touched on that one.
Is the building designed and being promoted as a portable building or a permanent building?
Depends.
Why?
It can compete for both. So this structure is a permanent structure that can also be relocatable.
Right, okay.
Okay, so that's the hard part, is normally you see like big, I'm not gonna mention competitors, other competitors that are in this space that are temporary, and then they try to bolster it up to be permanent. But, and we compete against them pretty well with it, Tyndall Air Force Base, because if there were a hurricane event, they actually have to physically take the fabric off the structure because it was designed as a temporary
Exactly,
structure.
and I'm familiar with those.
Okay, yep, so this was not designed as a temporary structure, it was designed as a permanent structure that can be relocated. We have a brochure of, one structure, 3 lives. So but to the government, depending upon how they allocate the funding and what contract it is, whether it's a temporary or permanent building, it can be temporary or it can be permanent, that's why I said it depends.
I went over and seen a facility about a month ago, just outside of Perry, almost to Tallahassee.
Got it.
You probably know them, but I'm sure they're one of your competitors. They do a lot of work for the government. And they have something real similar to this. But they're not selling them as enclosed buildings where yours is. They're showing more of a cardboard type system.
Absolutely, can be.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
as far as the
I'm not
structure, as far as the framing and all, it's pretty much the same, meaning the design of it material wise, you know, I'm sure you're a little bit different, but they're more of a,
I think the biggest difference, the construction guy, and this is interesting too, is that the main difference you're gonna see is it looks pretty benign, but you see that, and that.
Yep.
So the fabric itself is, and if you
Slid.
put it down like this, it's slid into the
Sure.
system. So as part of the system, then the purlings are put up to tension that fabric. Normally, there's an exterior way that other fabric is adhered to a steel structure, okay? And they can't get ours is clear span as well,
Sure.
pretty big clear spans. So that fabric becomes part of the complete building system, if that makes sense. There
It does,
are eye
it does.
holes,
Right.
and it doesn't look like a balloon or a
Right.
pillow when the wind
Sure.
comes through. It literally is, it's slid, if you can see it, and it just is pulled all the way over those bays.
Right.
And it's part of the system itself.
well, they're using that as part of their shearing. For the strength too.
Absolutely.
For the
Yeah.
window.
Yep, so then you put the purlings in and there's 3 holes and you tighten the purlings and it toss the system itself.
We talked about, we don't have to worry about housing the people in the unit. We don't have to worry about the temporary shelters.
Yep.
We just have to worry about the bays. We have the shelter in place
Right.
already.
Well, and that's the question, what's the purpose of the bays? The purpose of the bay, and here's what I ask, is when you look at the land you guys have, first and foremost being a nature guy from Minnesota, right? I like all the trees. I wouldn't want to tear down any of the buildings. You've got 2 entryways right there and you've got a good place to work with. And it's a beautiful property,
Gorgeous.
Isn't it? I live right down the street there, and it's Fire Bending Recreation Center, so you're just like, okay, now we're gonna put a fire station on it, right?
Yep.
That's fine. So what you wanna do is you want the least impactful means to accomplish the mission, right? And with that in mind, you literally want a structure that houses the apparatus and the emergency vehicles. And then you're going to use the back building for firefighters
Right.
themselves,
That's
and then the front building, you're gonna use it for intake and security and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
So you want this to flow right with the aesthetics of that
Right.
lot, because it's a beautiful lot. It's a lot that you expect the Destin Fire Station to be on, and there's commercial to the right, to the left, really, so it makes sense. Someone's not gonna buy it for a home. So when you talk about that, do you need rolling service doors on it? Or are you literally needing something to protect the apparatus and shield it to a certain extent from the elements, but also from individuals seeing them? Or do you want this fully enclosed?
We would anticipate to be fully enclosed unless the commission, they'll make the eventual decision, but I would say fully enclosed.
Okay.
Well, it has to be fully enclosed. We can't leave it open to the public.
Well, I think he's got an option. Go ahead and,
Well, I would think that I would put, I'm almost done. Okay, so if I looked at this and I said the mission really is to house an apparatus and an emergency vehicle, probably, and maybe 1 or 2 in the future if you go to 80. And as you pull in, if I had a security gate that went open and closed, and it didn't get in the way, and you could still meet the response time, especially considering you'd have to be able to blow through it if mechanically it went down, right? And you could get in and it was really a secure site. Why wouldn't you have something like that COVID facility where you've got a drop down fabric on the top and it's just a complete open base, so you can pull the apparatus all the way through and almost can't park in there. Because the rolling service door is potentially going to be your limiting factor due to the width. And that way, to me, from a mobility perspective, which is the biggest concern, which is response time, I think for you guys,
That's right.
being able to just whip through there and you're parking, you can spray it down, it's protected from the elements. You really have, what was it on there? I think they said 14 feet, so you've got literally going up from 11 all the way to 14, all the way down. Why would you need rolling service doors if you've secured the site itself?
It's gonna be an ALS truck, it's gonna have drugs on it, so we're gonna need to secure it.
Got it. Okay. Sounds
Well,
good.
I don't also worry about corrosion control on it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
We're sitting right on saltwater.
Yep.
We know how bad that is.
Okay. Just was a thought. So your
Yeah,
rolling
good
service
thought.
doors are gonna be 14 feet wide, right?
Yep.
And we gotta place it on site. And also remember, you can have pretty much any color, you saw it up there, too, and you can make it
Yeah.
aesthetically fit. It doesn't have to necessarily be fire station red. It could be emerald blue if that's what you want for the area too.
Right.
Okay, great.
Yep, colors can change.
Yep.
I got one question, and I'm drawing it to make it easier for you to answer. I'm horrible, I'm not an architect, so. I know you can't take I know you can't take, this is a bird's eye view.
Yep.
I know you can't take this building, let's just say it's 50 foot wide.
Yep.
And it's 100 foot long. We know you cannot widen the building. We know you can lengthen it.
Yes.
But do you have a kit, or does your engineering department design, and this is then again, bird's eye?
I see.
Can we add on to the side, will they build something, being that this is a hip, a hip roof here?
Yep.
Do they have a design that they could add a building this way off to the side?
Yes, so basically it's an awning structure or whatever,
Like
it's just like this, yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
So you can add on to the building this way by hipping into it. You can do it,
The width of the bay.
just the width of the bay.
We could go wider than the bay, but understand the fact that you're gonna have, the bay coming through the middle of the building itself, right?
Well, you shouldn't. We're not interfering with these bays.
You
These
saying like
bays.
scab onto it?
Right, well,
Yeah.
no, what I'm asking them is because we're discussing about maybe
This.
one day adding on
Yes,
for
yes.
the living quarters.
Yeah.
Right, so,
Pardon, I missed that.
that's right, we're talking about maybe one day in the future, if there's an issue with the housing building, there's an issue, we can add on to the building width-wise also,
Absolutely.
not just length. So my question is bird's eye view, you're saying that you can't go wider, you can only go longer.
We can go longer, I would just add a corridor, that's all I would do.
Right.
But our
Smaller
issue,
buildings.
Yeah,
but our issue is gonna be, we need to go wider. We can
Yeah.
go longer,
Yeah.
but we're gonna need to go wider also. So in order, my question is if we can add to the side to build housing on the side of it,
Yes.
is that doable?
I think what he's saying is that you would put the same structure that you have here, not as wide, as
Well,
narrow as
you
you
can't
can. Wait a minute, okay, so he would add the same type of structure we have now, as wide as it is.
Right.
It's just as narrow as they can make it. And then you put a hallway in between the two so that you have your housing here. When they get an emergency, they cut through the hallway that goes right into the bay, dumps into the bay, and away you go.
So it's a separate bay then? The reason I'm asking, Chief, is because of the roof
No,
design. I'm more thinking of the rain, the leaves.
Yeah.
We're gonna have so many leaves up
So-
on that roof,
so
it's
you-
gonna cause
so-
something. So what I'm asking for is to separate, is it gonna be able to be tied together so everything flows down valleys?
Yes.
Our leaf issue is gonna be a problem there. We're gonna have leaves on our roof that's just gonna stop up any.
Well, the way this is designed, it's just all.
And that's why I'm asking the
Yeah.
question. That's why I'm
no, so
asking the
this is
question.
designed for snow sheds, so I almost was gonna say, no, you're not gonna have leaf issues, and part of me almost wants, I'll get some feedback for you, but
Okay,
I
cool,
really
thank
don't think. This is designed for a snow shed, that's why you have the, whatever,
Right.
Steve.
That's a lot different than leaf, so.
I know it is, because they may stick to the fabric itself, and you're gonna have to spray them off and everything, but I will tell you, this is gonna have less of an issue than any other building you're looking at, right?
I like it. I'm gonna be honest with you. I like what you got.
Well,
I just wanna make sure that we can actually add on to it in the future for housing, Chief, because that's what we're thinking ahead.
Yeah,
Um,
No, I would-
without, then again, I'm thinking of not being snow, not being rain, I'm thinking about the leaves, and anybody who lives over on that side of town's got a lot of leaves. They understand that that's an issue.
so what we did, and you saw this at Southport and Highland Park, is we put two, modular structures right to the side, and I think that site looks good.
Yeah, we saw it.
Yeah, I think it looks good. Did you go in the modular structure?
Yes, we did.
We can go in the individual rooms.
Well, we
Okay,
went into
Obviously,
the day
it's
room,
probably a lot.
kitchen.
Yeah.
that's an option.
It's very, very
Yeah.
similar to.
You say just put two of them together?
We had two different we can put two together, but we put two different structures up at Southport and Highland Park for the area for lodging, housing.
I got you.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
so we had modular facilities, off.
Oh, yeah, no, I mean,
They
I
don't.
understand that.
Yeah.
Be connected with a quarter that would be limited by the width of the bays right now, or?
That's-
Yes,
Okay, so if we had 12-foot bays, for example, you've got a short 12-foot hallway connecting actually two separate structures.
Correct.
yes.
And what we mentioned earlier, the reason why they didn't want housing in the bays is for the ventilation, for the
Sure.
exhaust.
And carcinogens and all that.
Yeah,
And then, all
This is
the,
carcinogens.
Cancer carcinogens and all that stuff.
there's NIFA and all the rules and compliance
Yeah.
issues
Yeah,
and
so-
firewall, and that's what's good about a corridor too, technically. That takes the place of a firewall right there.
Exactly.
I mean, if you've got 4 feet, that's your firewall right there. Yeah, okay.
I don't know, man, we got a guy outside that door, we might have to go to him first, because he's a tough inspector out there. He might say he wants 4.5 feet or something.
Are you serious?
But he works for me.
Okay,
So I'm just saying.
Thank you. I mean.
And he works for us.
And I knew that answer was coming.
Yeah.
What's your current pipeline in manufacturing the components of these buildings?
That's a good question. So We are literally, if you ordered today, you'd be 2.5 or 3 weeks out from shipment from Salt Lake City, Utah to here, right?
Yeah.
That's typically what we say. I mean, we're a month and a half ahead of schedule on the Cannon facility. We've got, material sitting on the ground right now waiting on processes.
Wait for an installer.
No, we
No,
haven't
we-
installed it, but that's good. No, so that point too is every single project is not just the general contractor. Sprung them because of liability has a service rep and technician, a guy on the ground that literally walks the entire team through the build out process. That's a Sprung employee, independent of Rogue Industries, that's on the ground during the entire.
So you have certified installers, though?
Yes, we do.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll just say on the base, it's just federal review.
Exactly,
processes,
yeah.
Bureaucracy.
I worked on the base for 15 years, I know that's tough.
So that's.
Yeah, they got more eyeballs watching you than you have people working.
Yes.
Hey, Chief.
Has
We were
has
talking,
anyone built a facade in front of this building?
Yes. Yeah, they ask that question a lot. So if it's, brick, stack, stone, whatever you want to do, you can put a facade up.
that's a good question. I was thinking about that earlier. And it's
Well, you could easily make it look like a 2-story conventional building
You
from
could.
the street.
I think if you go on sprung.com or disasterrecovery.com, which is a Sprung site that we assisted with, you can look at a lot of different buildings across the board from pool enclosures to literally what we talked about with Jeff Bezos and Elon, the administrative office and facilities. Just Sprung's headquarters in Canada is built out of one. So there are facades. Yeah, we've actually been looking at the patent complex at West Point for general patent, and you're not gonna build a traditional Sprung for that.
Yeah.
Right, and that one's really, really neat. It's got a lot of, we're excited. It's an honor to even be talked about, to be considered to do that project.
Open glass, window,
Yep.
window panes and stuff. So.
One more question on your warranty.
Sure.
The warranty is your manufacturer and DuPont warranting the vinyl, or just who? Who actually warranties the vinyl?
What we'll do with that question, if you don't mind, is we will send you all the warranty information.
Gotcha.
And you can review it. And that way, I think that should answer and alleviate all the questions, not to necessarily go on record.
Right.
That way.
Yeah,
Yep.
get you the warranty.
I like being on record, though.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, well, no, you're obviously gonna get that answer before you make a
Right.
decision in the
We'll
first
have
place.
the
Yeah.
official documentation.
Okay, good.
We're checking that you want the wind test out.
Thank you.
So we get you that.
Yeah, it's lifetime aluminum, 20-year, but we don't know who stands behind it. If it's DuPont or Sprung itself. I'm assuming it's DuPont, but.
Chief,
Well, thank you.
we were talking sidebar yesterday about the additional property over at Station 10.
Mm-hmm.
Just off the top of your head, what size building would you think? Would it fit that 20 or 30 wide?
Yeah, oh, sure,
Minimum
the property would,
thing.
right. Where the issue's gonna be is there's whether Gulf Power approved or not has been a non-permanent structure. Because
Have you ever had
being
issues
is
with
right
that?
away.
As far as,
They can beat that.
that since
It's portable.
it's portable,
He can say that.
yeah.
We can say it's temporary.
Yeah.
We did, for the two you looked at yesterday,
Yeah.
the zone's temporary.
Okay,
Yeah, even though they're permanent, and they have the option, because of the way we built them, to keep them. I think the one that, anyway, they may move them north in the county, but it's hard pressed for me to think they'd move those two, but
No problem.
yeah,
they'll be there for a good bit.
I think so,
Yeah, I don't think that'd be.
I mean, Highland Park, did you go by Highland Park too?
yes,
Yeah, I mean, that's a challenging site.
it is.
I mean,
It's
that,
small, it's, yeah.
irregular trunk,
Yeah,
oh, yeah.
and how it sits on the property.
That was the only way
It's like
that
a
did.
thumbprint.
Really,
Railroad tracks up there.
Oh, yeah, that was difficult. I don't know what else they could have put on that property, to be honest. That was tough. But I think it actually looks really, really good. You drive in, every time I drive into Tyndall now from Jacksonville, I'm like,
Yes, right
you're
there.
proud.
Yes.
Yeah. And, and they're stepping off on that. We take a lot of pride in what we do. So if there is a different solution that you guys go with, from our perspective, we at least want you to be able to evaluate all that you have out there, kind of open the aperture and know this.
Well, that's why we invited you here, is
Yeah.
we like to look at the options.
Yep, amen.
And we greatly appreciate it. Unless anybody has any more questions, we'll cut them.
I think we're good.
to our
Thank you.
Great.
discussion.
Thanks for the time.
Thank you so very much.
Yeah.
I'm so glad and excited for your company. I
Thanks.
think you're gonna be successful.
Yeah, we enjoy it. We love doing it, right? And it's the right reason. That's our mission.
And once
we
again,
love-
thank you both for your service.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Exactly.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm gonna send you these electronically.
Okay,
So
yeah.
you're not carrying blueprints
Yeah, yeah.
around, I'll send you these
Sounds great.
electronically. Thank you.
Sounds great. Appreciate you guys. That's all right. I don't want to do anything.
Yeah.
Thank you guys.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate y'all very much.
Thank you very much.
Any questions you have?
Appreciate you, thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
We went over a little bit, I apologize.
You're
I
fine.
don't know, were you filming the back of my head or the front? You were?
That's
How did
okay.
it look? Did it look good?
Yeah, no, it's nice and cut.
Yeah, not near as good as the front though, you know what I'm saying? Thanks to you.
Exactly.
Thanks, guys.
You take care.
Thank you. All right, so we're going to continue to move on with discuss and take any actions relating to the construction remodel of the new fire station purchase. And we need to remove the new fire apparatus. So what do you think about the presentation? Any thoughts, likes, dislikes?
Interesting.
I like the options. I mean, like we talked about last week, options is what we want to put on the table and explore it, discuss them, hash them out. If we like it, we don't.
Depending on the cost, it's not a bad idea. If it's a lot cheaper, if it's close to being the same, I don't believe we bought the property for short term. I think if it's, but then again, with some of his answers coming back, if the warranty's that damn good, and the price is that right, it's an option, most definitely. But if it's close, like I said, we didn't buy this part-time, for a short term. We might have to go a hard construction. But then again, let's see the price, let's see what the warranty information comes.
Well, I can see why Tyndall in Bay
I can see why
County,
they did it either.
they went for it, one
And
cost,
quick.
and they needed it quick.
Yeah.
And they didn't have to go through all, I'm sure, all the building process, and what he said, you don't have to deal with waste and all that kind of stuff. So I can see why a lot of people would take advantage of it.
Me too.
I really do.
I talked to David beforehand when we were discussing this, and he said, I tried to narrow him down what it costs per square foot,
Yeah.
and make it easy for us. He didn't really want to give us the exact number, but he said between 160 and 180 a square foot, compared to what we're paying for a CMU building is about 300 maybe.
I'll do some numbers real quick.
Yeah,
give
so
you an idea.
that's what he said, whether that's in the ballpark, now that's what he gave me, he didn't want to be held to that number.
Yeah.
But between 160 and 180 a square foot.
Right.
The idea, like you said about maybe moving it, or maybe when we purchase the property out there on 10, maybe put a small structure up for now, maybe one bay for now, just for to house it, and then maybe down the road, transfer it over there for the beach safety, and have them use it for beach safety on that new property. And save our money for something else down the road.
And that's not a bad idea. That's why I mentioned, we just got a quote for the 40 by 14 here for the Jeep for the new trailer and the new truck coming.
Mhm.
So we've got an idea roughly what that is. Let's see what let's just see what they come up with. And if it does, then, and it's real reasonable, then it's not a bad idea to think about putting something out there at Station 10 for beach safety. But I think my biggest concern is, guys, is I really want to hear a warranty issue, because I don't know if y'all have ever had those sunsetters, hang off your house
Yeah.
sunset. I've got a couple of them. They're DuPont material. They have a 20-year, lifespan, or at least that's the warranty, but they don't last 20 years. And my biggest concern on anything we build is those leaves. I live on that side of town.
Yep, yep.
And those leaves are a son of a buck. And when you get that much leaves staying on the fabric,
Yep.
and then who's getting up on that thing? Are we gonna have to bring a ladder truck over for the guys to get a blower or the water hose to wash them off? Because it's heavy. When I say heavy, they get wet. They're heavy. It's not snow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it all depends on the warranty. If the warranty's that good, they're willing to warranty it. I think we need to look at it. But
If we're thought of putting a facade up in front of it, then I'd rather just go with a CMU building to begin with, and why bother in the middle of 10? Then
right.
Well,
Why- why
facade's
not
not
facade?
too bad. I mean, I think you could even spruce it up a little bit and go along the edge, brick or
Oh,
to match the bay house, with the block. And, I mean, facades.
One of the questions-
Or nothing, I mean.
Yeah.
One of the questions I forgot to ask, let's just say the T6 aluminum, which is good aluminum. I mean, that's
Yeah.
better aluminum. Let's just say it'll be a 50-year piece of aluminum sitting out there. And most likely, if it wasn't sitting around the salt, it would last 50 years easy. T6 is good stuff. my concern is the powder coating, because it don't last around salt. But what does it cost to change a panel out? If we have a problem with a panel, and who fixes that panel? If it's within, if they come back and they say, man, it's, $26 a square foot, that's something to pay attention to. That's not bad at all. If they come back and say it's $106 a square foot, then that's something we need to be paying attention to. Because like I said, the frame could last us 50 years, but if we have to keep changing out the panels, that might be something we have to look at. That's why, the warranty information is gonna be huge for us.
Well, what I like to is you could build out inside and make it look just like a,
But Rick, as somebody that does this for a living, if you're thinking about doing it that way,
no, I'm not talking about.
right, no, I'm saying.
Like it normally would look like. I'm just saying, like, you have your washer and dryer areas, your
Right.
hose was in there that they can close, and hose reels, all
Right.
kind of different stuff. You could, encase them and stuff like that. The pictures show them out in the
I see
open
that,
and stuff like that, but to me, that don't look aesthetically pleasing to me. I'd rather have it all
Built in.
built in.
Right, and if we're gonna go inside and start building some walls for the detox area and the things like that, if we're gonna go in and actually build that, then we really need to look at building the building,
Yeah.
because
So
everything's
that's-
tied together for shear factors.
Yeah.
But hey, look, the product is pretty cool, I'm not gonna lie to you, it's a pretty cool system. It's 4 years old, I've only been out there 4 years.
With the company.
Right,
Yeah,
Well,
Sprung,
yeah,
Sprung's
Sprung.
been around for a while.
right, but
They're
it's a
just
fairly
like
new, it's a fairly new
Reps.
but a fairly new process. So my biggest question is to who's warranting the fabric?
Right, yeah.
Because that's the issue right there.
Yeah.
I just tore down a big old pool structure. It's all aluminum screen. And, they say there's a value to it. Yeah, it's going to the scrapyard this morning. They're probably gonna give them $26 for all this aluminum frame so.
But that was a good point you brought up about the resale. If we decided that it's no longer good for us, could we market it and sell the product? I think you're correct. There's going to be a market for it. There has to be.
I think there has to be too. What I like about it, I think, is the flexibility, and that surprised me a little bit that, because we don't know what this eventually is going to be.
Right.
And so there's a whole lot of ways we can do something up front that's wrong because we don't know where we're going necessarily. We can all debate and think if we need, 3 apparatuses and fire trucks and sheriffs and what I'd like to do is whatever it takes that we can adjust as we have a clear and present need as opposed to a thought, okay?
Right.
And, so we don't get ahead of ourselves on that. So, and that tells me that, we start out with a couple of bays, and we got one for the apparatus and one for everything else, because that's all we got right now. Okay? And then we can extend it if we want to make the bays 80 foot deep, great, add 80 more feet to the back of it. And if we think about that up front, or if we do it and, a year down the road, we've got a different kind of mission for that plot of land over there for whatever reason, take it out, sell it, and build some other structure. And it's saying we can't do that, with a more fixed building. I'm worried about it, just the longevity of it. But if it, like you say, if it's warranted for 20 years and the fabric gets replaced or something, that's probably pretty good. But I just can't, among all of our options, sort down, here's our 5-year plan on how this is gonna evolve. We don't know.
Yeah.
So we gotta be able to, a conventional building, figure out how to add on to it, and this one add more to it, something. And I was surprised that we can do as much. I looked at a bunch of pictures here. There's a whole lot of them that have the main thrust of the building and wings coming off that would be for residences, whatever else. And so we just figure out what it is we need to start this thing. But I would say if we could get 2, if we could get a bay out there for our truck, and it's gotta be enclosed for erosion standpoint. And we get a bay, side-by-side bay, so that gives us probably a 40-foot wide structure. Does that fit? I don't know. But if we can do that, then we got several ways to go. We can put a residence next to it if we need to. We can put more bays by extending it. Got a lot of options.
I think
And in worst case, if we can't get where we want, I think we got a product that we could sell.
Well, and here's something, I just did some rough numbers. If we was to take, he said roughly between 160, 180 a square foot, so I just used 170, I put it in the middle. And I'm just basing on what we're at today at 3,200 square feet. You're $544,000 for that
For that
for
building?
this building.
Oh.
Now, and I don't know if I would bet he didn't give you all the mechanical stuff with it.
No, that was just a structure.
Okay, so when you start adding another 60,000 for electrical and another 50,000, I'm just using numbers for plumbing, you're at $650,000. Now, that $650,000, at the end of the day, at 10 years down the road, let's just say for 10 years, we decide we're gonna sell it. What is that building worth? Look, guys, I've built many, many steel buildings, and we've tried to take a steel building down, and man, you can have it if you come get it,
Yeah.
take it down, and you can't give them away. You're always gonna find somebody at the north end that'll come, they'll start on it.
Mhm.
Then you gotta worry about liability, because they're up there on ladders trying to take all the screws out, get fans off there. So where I'm going with this is, roughly $650,000 for something that we might end up taking down. In my eyes, and I'm gonna say this on record, because it's just, in my eyes, I feel it's true, it's still a portable building. It's still not a permanent structure. So for, give or take $650,000 versus spending $1 million to build a concrete structure, that if a hurricane come, I'd feel real comfortable getting inside that building and staying in that building, because it's not going anywhere. So, and it's very, 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 very easy to add on to it when we want to add on to it later. So
What size are you starting with, 80-foot deep?
what we have been talking about since day one was a 40 by 80, 3,200 square feet.
What if we did a 40 by 40 to start? As long as we can add on.
It would be well, the only downfall with that, because I spend a lot of time with the chief on this, is we have the one engine, and then we have the other bay for what we're hoping for one day. Like the chief said, he really needs the space behind. Now, maybe it's only 40 by 60. Maybe he can get away with 40 by 20 for his detox area and the stuff that he needs for the equipment for the guys in the back, whether it be their uniforms. Chief, help me out. Am I on the right track? You need a little bit more than just the truck bed, right?
Yeah, I got all that, but what I didn't understand was, if right now we have one apparatus and we have a need for a bay, let's call it, for all the other stuff for the guys.
Right.
That's like 2 bays by 40.
Right.
But we don't need an 80-foot bay, and,
We don't.
we don't need 4 bays
Right.
to start, as long as we can extend it if we want to.
Jack, that's a great question. And if you guys really want to save money, then that's what we do. Because please keep in mind, if we were going to go with, and I'm going to use, his building and or our building, or his building and or concrete building, when you build a square box, a square is much cheaper to build than anything long or round or any other angles. If we was to build a 40 by 40, which I like where you're going with this, and we put in this concrete block and we put in the 14 by 14 roll-up doors, guess what we do? We take the doors out, we leave that wall there, and we just come out, we add another 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 feet, whatever you guys want.
Move the doors.
Right, and move the doors out.
Yeah.
When I say simple, it's simple, simple, simple. Then if we want to go off to the side, that's even easier.
Yeah.
You just tie right into the concrete block, lay another block outside and move it. So, if this board likes the idea of downsizing this building, meaning, and I like where you're going with it, Jack, but I really would like to leave it up to the chief and make sure that if we're gonna build this 40 by 40, is there enough room behind it for what he needs? He needs things that we don't see. He needs footprint for things that we don't do on a daily basis, whether it be the guy's fire suits or, where they hang there.
Well, and the question would be, if we built a 40 by 40, we got a 20 by 40 for the apparatus.
Correct.
That works. And we got a 20 by 40 for all this other stuff.
I like
It's
it,
not
but-
behind it, it's next to it, which is not all that bad.
Right.
And if we need another bay, then we build another 40 feet behind. And
Which is-
then the question is, we move that stuff, does it need to move back? So we can put an ambulance in the front? I don't know, but
If we were gonna build a 40 by 40, I'd build it on the front side of where we're building right now, because if we wanted to add on to the back, we got the footprint. If we wanted to add to the forward, we can go forward.
Yeah.
I wouldn't start it way back in the back. I'd start it in the middle. That way, if we needed more room, we can move the equipment back a little bit and build forward or backwards. I like where you're going with
see,
it.
I would start it back, and the reason I would start it back is because the truck's closer to the guy.
Right, that's right.
Well, the only reason I was thinking somewhere different than that is because when we're adding, we gotta make sure the trucks are out of the way.
Oh, that's right. So
You
you'll
know.
be adding in front of the truck.
Right.
Might be a
You know,
problem.
at one day, we're gonna have behind the truck first.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we'd add, obviously, we're gonna pull the trucks out every day when they're slinging, material
My
up.
question is,
I like where you're going with that, Pat, because if you wanna save money,
Let's build for today's needs today.
I like where you're going.
Flexibility, and as these other things come to pass, if they do or they don't, we know how we'd accommodate it.
I like where you're going with this. Now, keep in mind, and Chief, please help me with this, because, man, we spent a lot of time on the substation next door. It was a 40x60, and at the 40x60 downstairs, Chief, that gave you everything you needed, that extra 20 feet, to put all this stuff that I'm trying to explain what, the fire suits and blah, blah, blah. Can you make a 40x40 work? Or would you prefer, and keep in mind, 10-foot increments is perfect, if it's only a 40x50, another 200 square foot of 10 by 40 or 400 square feet.
before we even get to that, why can't we find, I know Jack met with Catherine, I'd like to see how much money we have to deal with first.
Well, I already think we know that. I
No, we
think
don't know that.
No, I guess what I'm getting at, I know we don't have a whole bunch, we're gonna have to go borrow a little money. So
Well, maybe-
whatever we have to, bingo, the
well,
smaller
maybe
we go.
Jack,
I like where he's
maybe-
going.
Maybe they had.
Catherine, and Chief and I spent some amount of time going through where we think we are. We went through the asset fund, not item by item, but every significant thing in there and worried about it. And the number we came away with, as we're comfortable with, is 1.25 million.
To use,
And that's take that.
I would say that would be a reasonable budget, and I think that's what we agreed.
Yes.
The budget, everything we're gonna do there now would be 1.25 million.
and not have to go to the bank.
Probably a little bit.
Oh, okay, okay,
But
so,
we gotta talk about how the repayment and all that kind of stuff.
okay, so,
Catherine's got something.
That is to go to the bank.
okay.
When we looked at the asset fund, we also looked at, the money we've already spent, the 544 for the land and the money that we spent just purchasing the apparatus and not paying that back to the asset fund. So so adjusting the asset fund so it absorbs those two items. And then for the rest of what needs to be done, that will need to be borrowed.
Okay, so a question. Without going and having to borrow money, let's forget about putting it back in the asset fund. Without going and borrowing money, how much money can we spend? Zero. Okay,
Go to Walmart and buy a tank. That's what we got.
and I'm just asking that question because in my mind, I was just thinking, well, what Bob just got my attention, man, if we got a little bit of money, you're saying build smaller, let's build what we can afford, get a line of credit, which I think we already have. And in case we had to have it, we got money. And let's do what we've done the last 10 years. And let's just hammer down and get it back where it needs to be. That's where I was headed.
Yeah, well, we argued a bit about what we thought we could be comfortable with. And we came down to 1.25 million as I think about as far as we ought to try to stretch right now, and that's gotta be borrowed. But we think that's reasonable in a reasonable time frame. I don't think it's reasonable to say, let's go do something for $50,000 and we just paid $2.5 million for the land. I don't think we can, I think that number is a reasonable number. That's what we came down to.
I like where you're going with this, Jack, because I think I mentioned at the last meeting, I believe that we could build a new building, and do the remodels, the issues that the chief would like in the living quarters. I still believe we can do this, for $1 million. Maybe cheaper if we use this building, okay? But I really liked where you were going, only because of the knowledge I have in the construction of, let's build what we need today. We can add on in 2 years, or 3 years, or 4 years.
And it's not a bad thing to keep some powder dry with respect to going to the bank and getting money.
Bingo.
So
I hate to go more.
We could do this for $750 by
Bingo.
doing a smaller footprint. That's a great way to start.
I like that. I
I'll
like
tell
where
you,
you're going
within
with it.
2 years, you're gonna be doing something else over there.
I like where you're
And
going.
we just, we're not gonna have paid back all the debt within 2 years. So if you think about that, it's kind of like, that's our headroom to do something.
And everybody in this room is smart enough to understand if we go concrete block, for example, and we paint it the colors that we have over there now. If we want to add on to that building, the concrete block is just gonna match exactly what we have behind it that we added onto, but you just don't paint it again. It's just a concrete block. So I like where you're going with that, Jack. I don't want to spend any more than we have to. I don't.
Right. Yeah.
But I want to make sure that this chief gets what he needs as far as a footprint to put the stuff, so he doesn't have to listen on a daily, and we just don't have room for this, we don't have room for that. So if we could live within our means and give you what you need, chief, as far as the footprint, and downsize it, I'm with you.
60 by 40, just rough math here, using CMU at $300 a square foot, it's gonna cost us $720,000.
Okay,
That's just, I don't know if it's more than that or not, I don't know what the cost is for a CMU bill, I don't know what the cost is for this yet.
Right.
I don't know until we have a figure, I don't know what the cost
That
is.
include mechanicals and stuff?
No, that's just, no.
no, that's everything.
So that's
But
everything.
what I said is everything, yeah.
For $300 is about right?
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah, so I guess where I'm going with this is I really like where Jack's going with this, because we were living within our means next door, and then we come over here and we're growing a little bit, but don't get me wrong, I'm not against growing it if we can afford it. But what I'm hearing right now is we're gonna have to go borrow all of it. So I like the idea of borrowing less, building what we need now, and then adding on. Whether we use this, if we only build a 2,000 square foot building today, but in 2 years we can add another 1,000 square foot, I'm okay with that. I just like the idea of living within our means. That's what I
Well,
like.
I'll tell you another subtlety too, is I think it's entirely appropriate and smart to, if we have to step beyond our current borders, meaning we do a sheriff substation up front, or we do ambulance over here, I would like to have to spend money to make that happen, because now part of doing that is the cost of doing it. If we've got it all built out and it's free, well, great for the county, not so great for us.
I like where you're going with it. I'm following you. Yeah, I get it.
I'm coming to the conclusion that we're gonna have to go into the Bay House. I was totally against it, and I still am against it, but due to financial restraints, I think we're gonna have to go to the Bay House. And I see that, but just, as you said, it's gonna cost $100,000 to revamp that. I talked to the sprinkler system, because we have to have a sprinkler in there, and it's gonna cost about $21,000 for a sprinkler system to be put in there.
So why can't we just add a pipe over there, Bob, and put one big nozzle on it, and if it catches fire, hook the truck to it and just sprinkle the building?
That's right.
He has the
I
final
like
say
the way
so.
you're going.
Well, he has the final say so.
Yeah.
But, it's money-wise,
No, and I get it. My biggest concern
I
is
think
money.
knowing what we're trying to do, that the Bay House is so close to good for us. And if we get 2 years, 3 years out of it, what'll force us to do something different is we have a higher and better use for that land back
Right.
there that generates money in our district, like we rent out boat ramps or whatever to all the other agencies. And we want to get the house out of the way because we need the land. Then we'll build a residence up on the main station and we
I like
got
it.
revenue producing back there. But short of something like that, why the hell would you tear it down now?
but if we do go into the Bay House, which I think we're gonna have to, I still gonna wanna see a test done for asbestos, I wanna see a test done for insurance. It's
Perfectly fine.
Cost.
Perfectly fine.
That's fair.
According to the seller, he said there's no issues, but
That,
I agree with
that asbestos,
I don't have a problem
it's protect the guys, I wanna make sure everything's safe.
um,
But the 7-year-old building, I hate putting a lot of money into it because $100,000 going into it, and it's still a 70-year-old building. It still worries me, that's my concern.
well, when I say 100, Bob, now this is all depending if the chief, and I keep referring to him because he's the one that runs this on a day-to-day operation. The issues that we talked about doing, the things that we talked about doing to retro it to make it comfortable for the guys, I don't believe it's gonna be 100 grand. I don't. I just don't, I'm just putting a number out there, but I don't think it's gonna be near that. The kitchen's gonna cost us the majority of it.
Right.
And, right, and if we, exactly, that's the most expensive is the appliances. We don't have to buy HVAC, we don't have to put nothing in there, I mean, so I guess where I'm going with this again is, I do wanna hear, or what I'm hearing now is I think we're all on the same board about, let's live within our means, let's build what we can afford today and we can add later. Is that kind of sort of what I'm hearing?
Yep.
I think we've always had that kind of.
Right, agreed. So I guess the next question is chief, I'm gonna put it on you. could we live with a smaller building and fit in what you need in there for today's operation, not tomorrow's, today's? And do you feel comfortable retroing the home and putting the guys in there so we can get this process moving?
Yep. That's a simple answer. For sure.
And what size building you talking about?
I'm sorry.
What size building you talking about now?
I like what Jack's going with, because I'm the type guy, I hate debt, I don't like that. So if we don't have to borrow but this much versus this much, I'd like to build what we can, only because in my mind, guys, I mean, Rick, it's me building a 40 by 40 and adding 40 by 40 in front of it is like you writing a contract today and writing another contract tomorrow. Yeah, I mean, you're just so used to it.
Yeah,
you
but
know?
how easy is it to build to make it wider?
Easy, it's even easier if you want to go wider.
Well, then
You
you
go wider
change the
or
whole roof pitch and everything, right?
What's that, buddy?
You have to change the whole roof structure then, wouldn't you?
No. If you're gonna put a, let's just say a 412 pitch on a roof, and you got a 40 by 40, and you wanna go head the bob, you just add another 40.
No, I'm talking about wider.
If you wanna go
Because
wider,
we were going
that's,
80.
that's even easier, because that is what I
I
explained to
mean,
these
40
guys.
wide by
You
80.
put a dormer off.
Yeah, see,
Yeah.
this is what I explained to the guys, and this was kind of threw them off a little bit. Bob, Rick, this is so easy to hit this back into it, and you got 2 valleys is all you have. And you want valleys when you're
I was
in it.
thinking opposite.
Here's my question now, design, we're talking one side here, we're talking going a long way, we're talking going with our asset, which is the length of the building, the property. Do we want to go out? I want to entertain the idea of driving around and having our guys come through the buildings. I don't like the idea of backing in.
So you're still talking about angling?
And guess what?
If the angle and go straight up square, if we have the room, if we're gonna go narrower, if we have the room, I'd rather go narrower and longer than, and be able to drive through. And
Well,
whether angle or straight up.
I can
Now,
That's
I think we've already proved.
yeah, I can help you
They
answer
can
that.
make that
I
back
asked-
turn and just pull right in.
I asked the chief if he could send a truck over there while I was there. I'd like to see him make that curve. He made that curve. We have a minor, when I say minor, a minor change. 3 feet, 3 feet of curb
Yeah.
and or remove 2 trees that are not something that,
Significant.
bingo. So if we remove these 2 trees, Bob, we build a 40 by 40 building. We build a splash pad behind it, okay? When I say a splash pad, we go ahead and build the concrete pad 40 by 40 behind it. Do you follow me?
Yep.
So the guys make the turn, they come up, that's where they can wash the truck, they can do everything they want on that concrete slab, they drive the truck right inside. Piece of cake. When I say a piece of cake, a piece of cake.
Why don't we, for next meeting, have Chief come back with a design that he can build for the smallest amount that's still workable, safety wise and building wise for the guys, whether it be a 80 by 80, if that's the smallest he wants, or it's a 40 by 40, whatever he comes back with for next meeting, so at least we know what size we have, so we'll start working with.
Okay, could you go 60 wide? And have some room on the side more?
No, not without losing the parking on the right side, which I can't stress to you guys enough. We have to have the parking. That's part, and that's why it was so important for DC to answer that question.
Yeah.
If we didn't have to deal with the city of Destin, then the parking wasn't even an issue. But we have to deal with them, and we're gonna be required X amount of parking, period.
Well, we just gotta get an answer as far as that parking pertains to our type of.
Well, I know it does. I mean, I've already asked the question with the city. We're gonna fall into a housing, we're gonna fall into a storage, and we're gonna, fall into a warehouse space, warehouse meaning the trucks. So it's 1 per 1,000 square feet for this, it's 1 for 3,000 square feet of that, it's 1 for 250 square feet of that. So, but we also gotta keep in mind, we're smart enough to understand that we're gonna have at least 3 guys go to work every day.
I got an idea, Mike, why don't you go to the scene and ask them if we can borrow some of that property next door?
Yeah, right, thank you, I'll do that. And please keep in mind, guys, we need to know that whatever we build, we're gonna be required to have it, because we can't park next door. So if the chief's gonna have 3 guys right off the bat, well, then we know we gotta have a minimum of 3 parking spaces, right?
Well, next door is public property.
I-
There's public parking for the park, and our guys are residents of Destin. Why can't they park there?
I can tell you that the times I've been down there,
plenty of room.
The Bay House has been using that for parking every day.
Oh, no, I know that, I know that.
I'm not arguing, we should do that, but I think what we're really getting down to is, I mean, to say it simply, there's absolutely no reason to go borrow money to build space we don't need.
Bingo.
We'll do it when we need it.
And if the chief's saying, I asked him a simple question, can he live with that size for now? Because that's what I'm hearing we're talking about. If we can do that, well then, let's lean towards that way. If you want to give him the opportunity, which I personally don't have a problem with it, I kind of agree with it, give him the opportunity to go back and say, man, yes, I can make this work, but I want 10 more feet for this reason. Well, then bring it back to us and we vote on it and we move forward.
I'd love to do that. I've already put a lot of thought into what we could and couldn't do. And I always try to provide the commission with as many options as possible because I don't want to come in and say, this is only thing we can do. I'd rather say we have multiple options and then allow the commission to be able to make a choice and not try to rattle a decision into any, whether it's angled, grade, long, short. I try to give as many options as possible. I do believe and know that there's going to be what I would consider to be a minimum amount of space that's going to be needed. That will be workable for us to be down there. As far as its location on the property, I've said all along that we're down there to decrease our response time. So anything that we can do to assist us in decreasing response times for me is important. So with that said, whether we start out, when we say where we're going to build the bays for the truck, where might those be located? And we say, well, put it in the front, middle, back of the property. My preference is to put it in the back, closer to the living quarters, so that when they come out at 2:30 in the morning for that cardiac arrest or that structure fire, that they can get to that truck as quick as possible with a little hindrance as possible and less distance traveled. So, so my preference would be to put it back toward the Bay House as close as we can, still allowing for the ability to be able to make a turn so that we are still driving through the station. I'll work on designing and I say designing, like me draw it, but I might get with Scott. I've already talked to Scott. He and I should be meeting later today to talk about some ideas. But I can probably get him kind of draw it on the property, a plot plan that would just say, hey, this is where the building laid out and this be the size. And then I can come back and draw the interior of it. I don't necessarily need him. I can do that for a sketch for the commission to go, that looks pretty good. Now we'll take it to an architect and have them draw something. But that way it gives us moving forward and you get an idea of a layout that I think is going to be the minimum that we're going to need to truly operate down there and provide for the safety of the guys. When I say safety, it's not trip, slip, fall hazards. We're talking about long-term health kind of issues with carcinogens and that kind of stuff, which is a thought that we're putting into this building with the wet, clean, dirty areas and storage of gear and all the other stuff, vent systems and everything. So, I'll try to draw that out so the commission can see what my thoughts are on as far as small as we can do that fits the minimum amount of needs as necessary. Kind of, additional response apparatus out of there, which is what would be primary. You always have additional thoughts of if that truck breaks and you have a backup truck anyway. So I've had those kind of conversations, but just looking at what would be a response apparatus out of there. Right now, we're looking at putting a engine down there. We've already decided on the engine, but I'll also be able to know that before we get that engine, we're going to be putting engine 10 down there. So whatever it is, at some point was designed, this truck that we're ordering now goes for maintenance. We have to put another truck in there. It's going to have to fit. Right. So I'm going to design it so that it'll fit an engine. So, we don't have any other response vehicle that's going to be out of that station as it is right now. If at some point in the future, as Commissioner Wilson has said, we get to that point where, let's say, an ambulance, ours, somebody else's, doesn't matter, it's going to be housed down there and respond out of there, regardless of whose it is. We designed it at that point and put it in there. And it's a little easier to back up an ambulance than it is a fire truck. So if we design this for width wise, the property, and the property not having a great width, but tremendous length, and we build a 40 by 50, or 40 by 40 building, the bay is there, the other 40 is where all of our decon clean, all that storage and all that, instead of being behind it, because we've got drive-through now, is off to the side. That's where that's going to be. And then let's just say we go, okay, we're gonna start housing an ambulance. Don't give a shit who's it. We start housing an ambulance down there. We put it in front of that one place that's there. They pull in, back in and park it. It's an ambulance. It's easier for them to do so. They do it all the time, it's forward and back. So,
Well, those, and we'll know more if we get to that point. I mean,
Yes, sir.
And we can put it in front, we can put it back,
wherever.
and maybe at that point, we put it beside, because we got the parking issue solved, I don't know.
Right.
Question, does the TRT trailer need to be at this station?
Yes,
Well,
sorry about that.
I think there's things that's gonna need to be done at this station. And I think there'll be things that need to be here. TRT would probably be best to be here. Centrally located where it's at would be, now, the individuals down there, we're going to ensure, of course, all of our folks that are coming in now are going to be all well qualified as we've asked them to be. So everybody's going to be a swimmer, so those down there are going to be swimmers just like we're up here. So, yeah, the TRT would be here, is where the housing is, and at some point in the future, I would look to have both trucks still staffed out of this station. If we get to that point, then it's gonna be better for that trailer to be here. In the event it needs to be deployed, we'll drop the ladder to put that crew on that truck to take it where it needs to be for it to go, you follow me? So,
Yeah, but our response time with the TRT is not exactly the same as cardiac arrest.
correct, that's right, it's not as critical, that's right.
Because there's a crazy thought, and it doesn't make sense, that's fine, but
Yes,
we're paying money to create storage here for a trailer, and we're building storage down there. Why don't we just keep it down there? If that doesn't make sense, don't do it, but.
No. And initially, when we got the property, my thought was, if we're exactly where you are, was we're building a place to put it, because I don't have one right now. And if we're already building, build it there now. So to some degree, I'm with that, but
Well, then,
I look at limited space, no, regardless of where we build, the spacing issue.
Well, correct me if I'm
Can I-
wrong, emergency TRT gets deployed, you usually have like 6-8 hour window.
That's correct.
6-8 hour window.
Yeah, that's correct. It's normally a 3 to 6.
Can I
I
refresh,
just think of what is it we need to.
I want to refresh your old memory on something that we talked about in the beginning. And it was, do we use the bay house for housing? If not, what do we use the backyard? I'm gonna call it the backyard where the house sits now. What do we use that for? Well, if we made it say that, okay, this property is only this wide, and currently we put the structure on this side, and then we leave a little bit of parking, but the backyard where the house is now, one day something happens to it, please keep in mind that the backyard also can be turned into parking, and we can widen the building at that time, because now we got places to put parking. Without having a place to put parking, that's the reason we're narrowing it down and going longer this way today. That's our thought. So please keep in mind is if we, for some reason, have to take that building down, at that time, not only can we go longer, but we can also go wider.
Question for you, Mike, I don't know the answer. The walkway between the building and our property,
Sidewalk.
how wide is that?
It's 5 foot, you have to have it. It's a requirement by the city that they're gonna require a sidewalk to run from the back building all the way to the street itself. Has to have a sidewalk. It's ridiculous, but it's a law. And we will, that's why it was so critical when we heard that we might not have to, when DC said we.
And that requirement, so help me, because we asked the question the other day.
Right,
Okay, because we know that there's gonna be parking requirements.
yes,
So I had my fire marshal call the city and talk to our contacts there. And said, look, so this is what we have. We're looking to design, they know we're gonna put a fire station down, we're looking to design a fire station, looking at space, and we're looking at all this. And we go, so give us your requirements for parking, square foot, what it is. Let us know, so that way when we design it, we know what we're looking for parking, right? Okay, help us out with that. And you get a straight answer. Because they go, we prefaced it with, we're not a business, we're not commercial, we're not residential, it's a fire station. So tell me what where we fit as a fire station, not a business. We're not entertaining customers. We're not bringing anybody into our business. We're not commercial, same. No, we're a fire station. Can you give me that answer? Yeah.
And no, they can't, because it's just not in the code.
We ain't got the
Well, no,
answer.
they won't.
They'll go figure
Oh,
out.
they'll put us in a hole.
That they want. Yeah.
But they didn't have the answers in the point.
No, what they told you, most likely, was, well, we have to see your plans.
Correct.
The first thing they do, because I deal with these guys on a daily basis, and they aggravate the
I
hell
said,
out
I
of me.
want to draw the plans first, so give me what your requirements are.
There you go. They want to know what you're doing. The last thing they're gonna do is tell you, yes, you can put ceiling fans in this room. They're not gonna do that. They want to see what you're doing, then they're gonna go to their code. It's horrible to deal with. It's horrible to deal with, but that's what they'll do.
That's a
And if
waste of
you ask them a
time
question-
and money.
And I bring that up for the person we talking about sidewalk, because I kind of look at it and go, sidewalk for what? It's kind of like sidewalk to nowhere.
Right.
For what purpose and what reason?
Yeah.
We're not entertaining people, we're not, you say you want to put it across the top piece
You
of
know what, the
property.
only question
To
they're
go
gonna
run
ask
it
you,
down, run down the road so people can get from the harbor down to the.
I don't have.
they're gonna ask
Do
you
you?
one, Chief, they're gonna ask you one question. After you design it, they're gonna say one question. Their question's gonna be, sir, is this building open to the public?
Driveway.
That's the number one question.
Right.
They're gonna
Right.
say, is this building open to the public? And you're gonna have one answer.
You don't know.
Yes, it is. You have to have a sidewalk.
Well, you
They
can't walk down
don't
the
tell you that
driveway.
up front.
Yeah, that's what I'm
You
saying.
can't walk down the driveway?
Absolutely not.
You've been to my house?
You're not open to the public though. You're residential. The
Okay,
reason
well-
they do this, and the aggravating part on this, guys, is it's very simple, but they won't tell you that.
Open to the public or invite the public in. See, so there's some, when you start looking at the difference, there's a reason that Station 10 don't have an elevator. It's a two-story building, it should have an elevator, by code. The public is not invited upstairs. That's their private quarters where they sleep and reside.
Correct.
See, so
Can't we
it
say that
depends on how
about
you
my house?
practice things.
But they're allowed to go to the firehouse, so therefore you have to have a sidewalk. Or if it's all
Firehouse.
concrete, it has to be painted to show a sidewalk going to the building. Correct me if I'm wrong, Chief.
I think we make some arguments, but.
Right. I
I'll put
disagree.
in the
The
sidewalk.
bottom line is they're gonna say, is this open to the public? If it's open to the public, everything has to be
From the
handicap
front of the
accessible.
firehouse back, no.
Everything everything that's open to the public has to be handicap accessible, period. Period. It is open to the public.
Yeah.
But they won't tell you those things. They make you go spend a bunch of money
That's
and
it.
have people draw all this stuff up, and then they come in and that's when they go, nope, can't have that, nope, can't have that, nope, you can't have that. Well, for God's sakes, what can I have?
They'll pay $3,000 or $5,000, $15,000 to have it
There you go.
redesigned.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to bring it up that we did ask the question, we didn't get a straight answer.
Okay.
And we'll continue to ask the question until we can get somewhat of a straight answer, to be able to kind of design something, so we can say what the parking is going to be, so that way we do know what I'd like to know what our requirements are. I know that our fire marshal is very good at his job, and I know he can review codes, he can look at building codes, and he can tell us what the building code says. Okay, so when we go to design, I go to him and say, hey, what is our requirement? He's going to tell me. I'd like to be able to get that straight answer from them as well, so that when we go to design it, we know what the city is. Is it one per thousand? What is it, so that we can design it to meet your requirements, so that it makes our process quicker when we go to, to build the building. So, we also talked with Breeze Boat List. I know Commissioner Buckingham too. And I know he sent it to us as far as an estimate to be able to put a brand new lift down there. It's a little over 18 grand. That doesn't include any electrical and that kind of stuff. We're gonna hope to get him down there at some point so he can look and see electrical and whether or not the wiring that's down there is what is required and all that kind of stuff. But there was some nuance. I know when we've spoken with him, there's gonna be some differences in this lift compared to the lift we have now, because we actually have docks that we can actually access the boat on, where down here, where it's at now, it's just the front. So anyway, it's gonna be about 18 for that, plus whatever the electrical stuff is.
May I go back to what we were just talking about, and then I'll add on to the dock situation. I talked to 2 engineers this morning on 2 other projects I'm working on. And in order for us to get all the answers we need, do we need a sidewalk? Do we need a handicap ramp? Do we need this? Do we need that? It's a real simple question. The engineer is gonna ask one question. What is your square footage? What do you wanna build? If you want 40 by 40, then you're gonna need this much parking. If you need 40 by 60, then you're gonna need this much. He knows, that's what he does for a living. So we can ask all these questions, what do we need? But he's gonna say, okay, how much is the house? It's 2,100 square feet. Okay, you need so many parking spaces. How much is your housing for your trucks? What part of it is warehouse space? What part of it is for storage? Okay? In other words, if we only need half of it for warehouse, which means the trucks go in it, well, then you need this much parking. If we can tell them the back half is only for storage, then we only need this much parking. So we can go around and around and around and around this, but until we figure out what our footprint is, we don't know what it's.
That's right, that's right.
So that'll make it easy on us.
Let me circle back around and try to tie up some things. One topic, we were talking about this building, so I want to kind of get back to this building just for a second. We're talking about maybe if we're talking about downsizing, maybe this is a building that we look at for a one bay, whatever size that may be, 40 by 20 or whatever.
Well, one bay needs to be about 20 foot wide, so it'll be one bay.
So 20 foot, which is a minimum on their size, by 40. Just say that we get that building for that property to house and do what we need to do. Because you can have the truck and then the back for storage, right? Or the side or however.
Side.
And then we're talking about if that, after so many years or whatever, we need to move it or add on to it or whatever, or if we want to move it, we can move it to maybe the other side. So I'm just exploring that option because we were talking about it. Then another topic I want to discuss too is right now, building costs is out the roof, right?
Wood only, concrete stone.
Okay. Well, that was the topic.
Right.
Building costs, do we want to build what we need right now, or do we want to build more at the building cost now? And as money is cheaper to borrow right now, would we want to borrow at this rate now? I'd like to have a little
I'd
discussion
love
on
to
that.
borrow at this rate, to spend as little as we need to. I don't want to
Right.
borrow, a cheap interest rate to spend money we don't need to spend is not a good deal.
No, that's,
Right, but I'm just saying, I don't want to just build minimum right now. If we can build a little bit more, and if we have to borrow just a little bit to get that at the construction cost now, that's something to think about.
I'm 110% on board with what Jack said earlier in this conversation. But then again, my brain box, guys, excuse me, but my brain box is still thinking concrete block. And, you know, when I'm thinking concrete block, it's just so easy. It's like you writing a contract up. It's so easy to add on to concrete block. So I'm thinking, I like where he's going with it, because in the beginning of this whole process, we told the public that we only need this much square footage to build our substation. And that's all we kept saying to everybody. We kept saying, and please keep in mind that the bottom only grew a little bit bigger because that was the maximum size we had, but we needed the square footage up top for the housing.
Well,
We need to put
that's
enough-
not true, Mike, that's not true. We downsized quite a bit.
We had to.
To accommodate the city council.
We had
So
to.
That's not what we wanted,
No.
or needed, I'm sorry. No, that's not what we need. We compromised in order to help get the property.
Right.
So we're not
Well,
saying that was the size we wanted.
Well, keep in mind though, Bob, what we did is they did a footprint. This is the property. They did a footprint and said, we're gonna survey this area off for you. Well, when the public realized we were taking this much, we went back to them and said, oh, no. We only need this much footprint. This is all the property we need, the real estate. We don't need all this. That's all green space. That's all blah, blah, blah. We only need, that's when we went back and said we can live it. The bottom line is, where I'm going with this is I understand where Rick's going with it. Some material is very expensive right now. Some material isn't. Interest rates are cheap right now. People love to borrow money because interest rates are cheap. I don't like to borrow money because I still got to pay it back. I don't care what the interest rate is. So me, if we were voting today, I would say live within our means. Let's build what the chief can live with today, knowing that it's so flipping inexpensive to add on to 2 or 3 years down the road when we get more money.
How about
That's
this?
where I'm at.
How about this? This will satisfy everybody. We already asked the chief to go back and come up with a design, what he was, the minimum design. That's probably what, one bay? How about coming back with 2 bays, that's 2 options, one wooden bay and one with 2 bays, your minimum options, what,
Okay.
and this way we have an option to look at both of it and see, then we can compare the cost.
Okay, may I interrupt you then?
One bay, because we've gotta have the.
We gotta have two
room
bays.
and all that
It's
other
gonna be
stuff.
2 bay wide.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not 80 feet long, and you make 2 40-foot bays, that's the same.
No, but I'm saying, right now, you guys are saying one bay,
No, no,
and
no,
then
no.
on the side, another 20 foot for the decon rooms and stuff like that. I'm saying having 2 bays and a decon room.
Okay.
Oh, no, and I'm okay with that, but I never, I don't know, I hope this is a true statement. I never said 1 bay. I think we ought to build the 2 bay wide, but how long do we need it?
Oh, yeah,
Okay,
that's fine.
40-foot
Yeah.
wide, but
yeah.
do we only need a 40 by 40, he said, instead of a 40 by 80?
Somewhere I was
Yeah,
thinking,
yeah.
I heard, or was thinking, it made me think, like, you 1 bay, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't want 1 bay.
So 2 bays and,
Okay,
and,
okay, all right.
and necessary rooms for on the side.
Because that's when I came to, and I
2 bay.
said, you're changing the pitch of the roof, and
No, when I said that, Rick, that's what I'm saying at the time. If the bay house, something ever happened to it, and it's gotta go bye-bye, and we can use that for parking, then I showed you the pitch of the roof that we could add on where the sidewalk and the parking is now. It wouldn't bother us, because the chief only needs, correct me if I'm wrong, 20 feet is your rule to get back in the back, right? Or 25?
It's 20, but I've spoken with our fire marshal and I could probably get by with 12. So if we really need to get by down that side, generally it's 12, but we're driving through and it's not a, because when you start talking about 2-way traffic and have to turn trucks around and stuff
Well,
like
we
that, we look at 20, but we can get down to 12 if it's just one piece going and we've got a place, because we need turnaround and stuff like that. When we start putting it out in the public, we look at somebody how they design it.
Right.
I can get down to 12 if we needed to be able to go down that side,
Right.
and we're coming back up through the bay to be able to go out. I think we can get down to 12.
But keep in mind though, DC's answer was huge for me. Because we very easily, if we build two bays today, and the bay house, we have to remove it and we add parking back in the back. The city's requirement is minimum 20 feet, because they're gonna require us, if you put parking back there, you can't have a 1-way for a car and he's gotta stop and wait for the car to go. They have to have 2 ways. So, but you and I measured, we still have that 20 feet and still have enough to add not only a 20-foot, but a 25-foot bay as a third bay, if we ever wanted to go third, and still go longer, okay? But we gotta have, our minimum, I think, was 20.
It's 20.
Okay, we can do less,
Mhm.
but the city's requirement, only because of what DT told us, we're gonna have to have 20. If we put parking back there, which we would. I mean, if the housing's not back there, we gotta do it.
all right, so, yeah, so.
I like this, I like where we're going with it.
So let's just make sure we understand what the chief is tasked to do, because
Yeah, help.
we want to narrow these down.
Can we go on here, just to
Yeah.
make it easy for everybody?
I started the bay house, because I think we've agreed we want to fix the bay house.
Okay, that's what,
We're talking about that. Subject to asbestos and all the other stuff you mentioned, which is fair.
Okay.
so do we need to take a vote on any of that, or just direction?
No, but I don't think this is gonna be over that, and we can do it. What y'all were kind of telling me, unless somebody's opposing it, I'm gonna start getting it done.
Right.
Okay.
Are we all on the same page right now? This was what we've been talking about, a 40 by 80. You're gonna drive back to the bay house, truck's gonna come around the back, he's gonna drive through, right?
Right.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I think what we're discussing right now is to tell the chief, how much length does he need? 40 by 40, 40 by 60, 40 by 70, 40 by 80? Is that where we're at? Is that what we're talking about?
No. No, we're not. How you can get 3 bays in there?
Okay, and that's what I just explained. 3 years down the road, Hurricane Andy comes through and wipes that out. We have, from this point, the back of this parking right here, this is the parking lot. We have from here to that building roughly 25 feet. We have from here over 20 feet. We come back here and get rid of this, we turn this into parking. And they come out in and out this 20 feet. We add 25 more feet this way. So now you've got 3 bays and whatever length you want for the future. Does that make sense? So you got 2 bays here, Bob. You got one here, and another one over here. So it'd be 3 bay wide. If that's what we choose to do in the future. If we choose to add on another bay, because this is gone, then we got room to put our parking, because we have to have the parking. That's what I'm trying to get to you guys' head. We have to have the parking. But we're able to build wider because we can put parking back here.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, but to start out is we want to do 40 feet wide
Right?
and somewhere between 40 feet long and 80 feet long.
Whatever he says.
80 feet long would really be 4 parking spots for apparatus in there. We have 1. Okay, more than we need.
Yeah.
If we built 40, then we have a parking spot for 1, and we have a 40 by 20 bay, if you will, for all the other stuff that we need to do that may or may not be adequate. But that's what I'd use it for in the beginning. And then, because there's all kinds of ways to add on to that.
Because the truck is how long, 30-something feet?
If you use 35, you're good. It's gonna be 34 to 30, or, yeah, 35 is good, is a good number.
Is that our biggest truck that would be there?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Engine
Yeah, that's what
10?
I'm thinking, the biggest.
Yes, sir. Engine 9, engine 10 are twins.
Okay.
Both of those are gonna be, actually, if you put a tape in one out
Oh, you
there.
mentioned, we have a spare, we have the short truck down for, we gotta be able to put the other truck in there as well. So-
Right, which is, yeah.
So we still, I'm trying to wrap my head around it. You can draw as I talk. We got the 35 feet for the engine in the front,
Correct, right? But keep in mind, this is
this double.
a bay here and a bay here.
All right, so you got 35 on the left for the truck. I'm just,
Here.
I'm putting there.
Well, it'd be 40, but you got 35, yes.
Okay, I'm just saying.
And here, you'd have the same thing.
Right. So in the back, chief, how much do you need from that 40 foot? Because we won't walk around. Would you
Right.
just estimate?
Yeah, about 4 feet on both sides, so about 8 foot ahead to it. So it'd probably be a little bit more than 40 at the end of the day. Now, sometimes the guys will pull the trucks up pretty close to the door and you'll have even more in the back. I mean, you could probably get a rounded truck, but, I've
I
seen
won't walk around. I want plenty of
a walk
room.
around space of
Yeah.
of the apparatus, probably be about 8, 4 per front back, so 8 total.
I agree with that.
All right. And
So that's
then,
50 feet.
and so,
Yep,
and then on the right side, we would use for the battalion to come, when they come
No.
over and visit or.
no, there's no need.
No, there's no
The
need.
battalion won't be down there.
This building,
If
this
he
is
goes
all
down
gonna be
there,
empty.
just park his truck anywhere.
Okay,
Right.
okay. Or if future ambulance, they could go.
Well,
in.
that's the difference. Yeah.
Okay.
Well-
So we're talking about 2 bays, and that's the
Yeah.
minimum we're building, so, all right. So then we really don't need to go 80 deep.
No.
We need to go like.
That's the whole point, right?
Yeah.
That's what Jack's saying.
Yeah,
So,
I'm saying, we
50,
usually need-
60 deep.
So 50, 60, whatever.
so with that said, if this is 50 foot long, because we need an extra 10 feet, 5 on each front and
Yeah.
rear, then that leaves a 20 by 50 bay. That's 1,000 square feet that could be used for anything he needs today because we don't have anything to park in there.
Right.
One day when we do get something to park in there, then here's a thought, guys, is if this building, let's just say in the future, we're gonna want 4 40-foot cars. Okay, let's just say in the future, because once you park something behind, you have your distance, you already have it, you don't need that extra 5. So let's just say this building is, and I like where the chief was going with getting closer because of timing. This is 80 feet, but we only need 50, right? So we take the back half or the front half, whatever you guys choose. This would be 30 foot of a concrete pad that they actually come up and be able to clean the trucks on before they drive it in, or vice versa. Put the pad in the front, coming out to the street out here.
Yep.
Where it's got a pad out here, guess what the pad's
You can
good
build
for?
on.
I build straight up on top of it like
Yeah.
that. The foundation's there.
Yeah.
So, you follow me?
Yeah, there's a couple of things. One, in this particular instance, the pad would prefer, obviously, to be in the front because I want the station as close, to as close as possible with being able to still make a turnaround. So, in this case, I'd say put the pad in front. But the fact that the thought is that we're going to drive through.
Sure.
It's going to be a drive-through bay.
Correct.
Okay, now, understand, we're putting 2 things together that don't really work. Okay, so we say we're going to have a 40-foot bay now, and we put the truck in and we're good. Next time when we need more space, we're gonna add an 80-foot deep bay, right? So we're gonna park 2 trucks in there. So at that point, it stops being a drive-through bay. Because the other truck that you position there is not going anywhere. The other truck's a response truck. When it comes back, the other truck's in this way when it goes to pull through, it is no longer a drive-through bay. I mean, just so that we know. As you add on, that's great if it's just going to store stuff.
Right.
But if it's a responsive vehicle, you cannot be you know what I'm saying? So it doesn't make sense in that respect, so.
Well, the only reason I was saying what I was saying, Chief, the only reason I was saying what I was saying, is if we start with what we need, which is a 40 by 50, okay, because you want that extra 10 feet. That's all we need today, and we got room to grow for another truck because we don't have nothing next door to the engine right now. So we have growth already.
Right.
But my thinking was, Chief, is if something happened to the bay house down the road, we have parking in the back, we add another bay onto the side, okay, and now we're 3 bay. But please keep in mind, the only vehicle that's gonna be able, unless we put the building up farther forward, the only vehicle's gonna be able to drive through is the engine, because there's not enough to make that turn and come all the way into the other bays. You follow what I'm getting at?
Mhm.
If the building's so far back.
Agreed.
So please keep
I
in
agree with
mind,
that.
please keep in mind that the reason I was trying to move the building up forward a little bit was to make that curve, number one. Number two is at the time of we need to go wider, and I hope that I'm still here, I hope that the citizens still believe in me. That's when we go wider. We have the room in the back now, and if the bay house was to go bad on us, we take the back half and we build the new housing, or we put the housing on the top. Simple. We gotta make sure, if we're gonna go wider, we gotta make sure that the truck can get around and come in to drive through on the other bays, otherwise we're wasting our time on.
Well, here, in the case that we do that and we get rid of the bay house goes away.
Right.
We got additional depth to make an additional turn to be able to
Bingo.
turn back into that
Bingo.
bay. Okay, so right now we only have enough room to make a turn to get into 1 bay on the far side.
Right.
Well, and let's just say we end up having a bay right next to that one that you can't make currently at such a crimp angle, such
But
a
you
hard
can back
turn.
an
But when you
ambulance.
take out the bay house,
Yeah.
you go down far enough, you can
Well,
make that turn.
but that's
and go
not
back
true.
and pull back
But
in.
that's not true, because that's gonna be parking. You can't drive into the parking. I mean, if the city requires us to have actual parking, Chief, we can't, and they're actually parking
There's so
spots.
much depth from the house
I
back.
agree.
There's a lot
I
of
agree.
depth there.
I agree.
But and again, we're building a substation, and this is our
That's right,
first
That's right.
15 minutes of response time.
that's right.
Do you foresee us having 4?
I
absolutely
don't
not.
see us having a lot what I see, even in the future, is probably only 2 pieces, and one of them potentially being an ambulance.
Which can back into the base.
So let's
That's
go back
gonna
with
be
the
it.
basic then.
That's gonna be it.
Hmm.
I
Then
don't
let's go
see
back
us
to the
having, I don't see 2 fire trucks responding out there and an ambulance
Me either.
at any point. So
I agree.
that's why when I said it's gonna be so deep, is that if there is another piece that's gonna go there, it's gonna be a static piece that's just there for storage as a backup apparatus kind of thing. And that would be it. So, and we need to have backup apparatus because stuff breaks. I get that. But it doesn't necessarily have to be at that particular substation. If that truck breaks, and then we're going to end up pulling one from somewhere else where it's stored, bring it back to them, you know what I'm saying?
So I'm hearing from what we were in the beginning of this entire conversation when we bought the property, is we only need 2 bays. You only have 1 apparatus and 1,
Something else.
Truly, we only need 1 bay. That's it. If we want to get down to our minimum stuff, I only need 1 bay to house a fire truck and then additional square footage to be able to have our decon and stuff like that. That's it. 1 bay and a decon kind
Can
of.
you do that at 1,000 square feet?
Yes, sir.
So 2 bays, and you use the
2
right
bays,
side as the thing, and that's future.
If we don't
agree.
call it a bay, we'll call it the other stuff.
Right.
so we're a 40 by 50 building. It's real simple.
And then end up, as I kind of mentioned to Commissioner Wilson, we were talking about the dollars and when we were looking at the asset fund. And I said it in this meeting earlier, an ambulance can back up. Of course, they would prefer, obviously, to be able to have a drive-through bay just like everybody else.
I don't think we're gonna borrow money from prefers.
No,
Thank you, sir.
they can.
May I make a motion?
Wait, just a second. 2 bay, this is what I'm hearing, 2 bay, 40 by 50. I prefer pads front and back.
Fine.
Yeah.
May I make a motion?
Hold on.
No,
Obvious.
And then we're talking, what do you call it? Is it block? Or what did you call it? CMU? What is it called?
CMU,
CMU.
concrete masonry unit.
Okay, all right. And is that kind of what everybody's,
Yeah, I make a
What we
motion.
want to hear,
you can, but I'm just trying.
I know that, but I think I'm on the right page with everybody.
Okay.
And we're not gonna get going, we're not gonna move forward. I got a tree coming, I gotta go install for a gentleman. That's important to me. But anyway, I think it's a pretty simple. I'd like to make a motion to allow the chief to move forward with the engineer to bring back to this board next week the requirements needed from city regarding ADA and parking requirements, because that's what our biggest concern. Stormwater is not our biggest concern. Make a motion to ask the chief to go to the engineer to come back to us by adding a 40 by 50 building, what the requirements we have to have for ADA and parking. And reason, that's my motion. We're not gonna get anywhere if we don't get.
I'll move that motion, I can just follow that direction.
just have to do that.
Yeah, I just follow.
Okay, so he's gonna tell this board what we gotta have. The pads, doesn't matter. Okay, that doesn't require parking or ADA.
You don't add to the, it's just
What about
on the
Stormwater,
square
we're
footage.
not worried about
Okay.
stormwater right now. Our biggest
Right.
concern, guys, is parking requirements that the city's gonna require us for all three buildings, because we're keeping the front building correct right now too. We're not removing it.
Right.
As of current,
No
so
reason to take it out.
he will come back and tell the chief, you need this many parking spaces and you need this much ADA. That's, and until we get to that point, guys, we're not gonna move forward.
So I think your stormwater, that was interesting because on the plans that you and I have looked at,
Yes,
is that what we're seeing in all those 8 spots that are out there about
that is correct.
third down in the property, and you've got all these covers that
That is
say
two things.
storm on?
That is two things. That's your stormwater chief, and that's also what the city requires you to have your green space.
So he doesn't, and that's why we don't see swells down there, is because of what he has is underground
You see a
stormwater
percent,
retention?
you see the swells you do see,
There's very little, if any.
correct, but they have little catch basins down in the middle of them that you can probably not see because some leaves are over top of them.
Okay.
The water that goes into those
Yeah.
swells,
Yeah.
after it gets to this height, certain height, it goes into the underground stormwater.
Which is what those all access.
Correct. But
Okay.
what's more important with the city of Destin is you have to have a certain amount of green space.
Oh, we understand.
Now, it can all be in the back, it can all be in the front, but you have to have a certain amount.
We got a lot.
And without that, that's why they put one more in between every 10 parking spaces in the city of Destin. Every 10 parking spaces, except for shopping centers, you have to have green space. One parking spot turns into a green space. You'll see these restaurants around, they have a tree in it, and they have to have that.
He's got it down there. Or
Correct.
we have it down there, because it's our
Correct.
property now, we have it down there.
That's correct, because it's a requirement, we have to have that. So, to solve all our problems, Scott's gonna say, if you want this size building, you have to have this, and this, and that's gonna solve our problems.
Now, we're gonna get some sort of estimate from these guys on this other building.
Correct.
And
Yes,
we
sir.
should tell them, we're not talking about 40 by 80, we're talking 40 by 50.
40 by 50.
Whatever that number
Right.
is.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that way we can move forward, guys.
Sure.
You know,
Yeah.
We gotta know what our requirements are before we figure out what size building we want.
And I don't know if it's 40 by 50 until the chief comes back and tells us what
That's
size he needs.
Right,
Well, we gotta be,
Well, the only reason we said a 40 by 50, the only reason I was making a recommendation of 40 by 40, Jack asked the chief a simple question, is 1,000 square feet enough? So that was that remaining in the back, that's why.
All right. You got your marching orders?
Yeah, oh, I've got it for sure, yep.
So you're gonna recontact these folks and say, hey,
Yeah, and let them know that we're, a general size that we're looking at for them to be able to, actually, what we were talking about and giving us a quote for
The
wasn't
back.
necessarily down there, it was
Right.
over here in the back.
That's gonna give us a square footage price,
So, yeah, you
That
know,
was not insulated too, right? That was not-
40 by 40 by 14,
uninsulated, that's right. 'cause
or 40 by 40 by 80.
That'll bring the cost down.
So yeah, that'll give us an idea. what the
this
square
way, I'd like to compare the numbers. This one would be-
Tommy, I'm sorry, but
Tommy ain't talk much.
He ain't
Tommy,
said
what do you
much.
gotta say?
Well, no, I'm not an architect, I'm not a developer. And so all this doesn't make any sense to me. What I'm gonna see is I'm gonna see a drawing.
Yep.
maybe 2 drawings offering different alternatives.
Yep.
And a cost.
Bingo.
That's it. I can't sit here and tell you how much it's gonna be a square foot.
Yeah.
No. I can't visualize how big this is gonna be or how to do this. So that's all I'm asking for.
What's it gonna look like and how much it's gonna cost?
I can't even make a decision or a recommendation without knowing these things.
Right.
I mean, we're having to wait on these guys to come back with the stuff he's gonna get for him. Chief, we need to wait on him to do this. So, you know, we can sit here and beat out of a dead mule for days and days if we want to, but it's, you know, doesn't do any good.
You should have spoke 2 hours ago, Tom.
Huh?
When Tommy speaks,
It's
it's good.
What?
I said you should have spoke 2 hours ago. You could have saved some time.
But I think we're narrowing it down now. I think we've hashed out a lot as far as everybody's thoughts and
So you got 2 big pieces on the table, I think. One is, we're gonna fix the Bay House. Quit talking about that.
yeah, we're
Second
moving
is,
forward
we're
with
not
that.
gonna spend more than $1.25 million.
Bingo.
Those are both big steps.
Yeah.
And that's what you said last time, Tommy, was, you know, you want somebody to say, here's what I need, here's what it'll cost, and we ought to say yes or no. So we try to get in effect a budget that we've got to live within as a way of bracketing the cost. I'd like for it to be a whole lot less, but we know it's not gonna be more than.
Yeah, well, you came up with the budget, so we got that. And so all we need now is
Plans.
It's off the cheap.
plans.
And guys, just to throw something else out there to think about.
Oh, no.
Yeah, no. once
Oh,
we
no.
figure-
Well,
Oh,
I know
no.
what it is.
Well,
I know what it is.
But he,
Parking.
no,
Parking.
no, but I'm serious. Once we figure out the square footage, what we can have because of the parking, I got us a quote on this steel building from one of my suppliers. I'll get a quote if it's that much money difference, even though it won't last 30 years, but I'll get us a quote. You want to save money on a steel building over there? If it's only going to be this size, let's get a price on the steel building. That's what we got here. That's our other 2 stations are steel buildings. So if you want to save money, I'll get a price so quick it'll blow your mind on what a steel building's gonna, once we know the size of it. No brainer. And you can add on to them anytime you want.
Get you one. Get one. You know, look at
Well,
them.
are we gonna meet the hurricane code?
Yes, oh yeah, most definitely.
Do we have a corrosion
No,
problem?
Yes, they have a corrosion
Oh, yeah.
policy. It's galvanized. They, all their purlins and stuff now. They weren't back when we built these 2 stations. They didn't have that ability. Now, they galvanize them all. So yes, to answer your
That
question.
didn't make it last very long.
Well, I mean, you know, if you galvanize, it does add 10 years to life. But I'm just saying, if it's a money issue, then we'll get another, we'll get 3
It's always
quotes.
a money issue. I think, I wouldn't be adverse. Tommy said maybe we need 3 drawings. Here's this thing, what it costs, here's what it'll cost, here's what it'll cost. And somebody decides which one you really want, we'll say yes or no.
Options.
That's it.
Yeah,
I like options.
the only,
That's what our job is here.
the
Our
only
job
thing to
is
think,
not to design first. That's right. Our
Nope.
job is not to figure out how many parking places we got to have. Our job is to pick out what we can afford and do it.
Take the data, make an informed decision and move forward.
well, please keep in mind, guys,
Unfortunately, for more than 2 of us to sit down and have a conversation, it's gotta be a public meeting. That's the
Yeah.
problem.
Well,
and please keep in mind, guys, Tommy, you can relate to a restaurant. Jack, you can relate to building houses, well, everybody here can, is if we go get 3 different drawings and we ask for 3 different prices of what it would take to cost to build it, it's gonna take us some time to get that, because nobody's got the time to do that. An architect or an engineer is not gonna give you that quote. He's gonna design it, and he's gonna say, you go find your builder and go get your builder to start giving you quotes. That's gonna take us a long time, and at the end of the day, we're still at the $200 to $250, $300 a square foot. What do we wanna build? All in timing.
Well, these folks will tell us immediately.
I like 12 days.
Yeah, that's
No, I get that, and so will the steel building guy.
That's another good one too, because how quick can we get into the station? Well, you know, that's something
That's
I
his
would
concern.
expect to hear from them too, is, you know, what I'm getting out of what they were saying would probably be about 3 months.
Well, no, he said he got in one,
If we ordered it.
6 weeks.
He said 5 days he built it. He said.
Well, I understand
And he
that.
said the earliest, I think he said was 6 weeks, which is phenomenal.
We'll ship it in 2 weeks,
Yeah.
get it up in 4 days,
Yeah.
but it may not be what we want.
Exactly. Exactly right.
Because, I mean, it's just like doing the operations to the Bay House. How long is that gonna take to get it where the firefighters could stay there?
Yeah.
There's a lot more into this than just buying something.
And
how long is it
permitting,
gonna take to get it
permitting, all
done?
that stuff.
Yeah.
Well, something else to be thinking about on our way out the door is what would the guy charge us to build a 12-foot by 40, because we only need 40 now, because that's the brand new truck we're getting. What would it cost us to build a temporary building? So on June 1st, the building's up in 4 days because we ordered it, right? In 4 days it's open. The guys stay in the front house, which is what the chief has been thinking about. Put the truck next door. And then we're not in a rush to build a building in the back. At least while we're building it, we got a place to house the truck. If they're not that expensive.
Well, it depends on what it costs, because it's a throwaway. If you do a 12-foot wide, you can't make it 30 feet wide.
No, but
You can make 800 feet long, but that doesn't work.
these guys want to sell too. So it's just, how much does it cost us to throw something temporary?
What I was.
The house will
And is that something that we can use at the other property? So.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Or it's something we can put the brand new trailer in. We don't have to buy the 40 by 40. We put the new trailer in this 12 by 40 building. The truck and the trailer.
Ask him what you think you may need for the truck to house a temp, because it's movable, he said.
Right.
Or whatever, or a movable one if they got one, it's easier.
We do not have to build a concrete slab. He made that very clear.
You can put it under.
We can set it right on top of that ground. So I'm saying, by listening to what he was saying, I'm not worried about his spur. I'm not worried about his warranty. I'm not worried about all that because this is gonna be something temporary for us. If that guy can come set it on top of our ground right now, put in some anchors and give a place for Chief to put his brand new $500,000 truck inside, while the guys are living up front for 6 months while we're building something in the back, I think it'd be great money spent. When we're done, we pick that thing up, we bring it over here or take it to Station 11, pour it on a concrete foundation, and now we got something to last 20 years. Or say,
Yeah, we don't have that number. I can't get it.
So explore that with them, if you don't mind. All right,
we done?
conversation?
I'm done.
Everybody happy?
Way too many options.
Yeah.
Narrow it down, negative down.
Tough.
Yeah.
Okay, so, need to open the floor up for public comments? No, seeing none? Next meeting will be next Wednesday, which is, I don't have a date.
March 3rd.
Week from the day. Third, okay. March 3rd, 2021. Anything else? Nothing else? Good. With the commission, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, gentlemen and ladies.
Thank you.